Hey, this is Steve Bloom, and you are listening to the GeekCast Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 68 of the Cinema Geeks. We're back with another one of our special countdowns looking back at the half-decade. That's right, we're looking at 2010 through 2014. We've done a number of these lists, starting all the way back when we did science fiction, fantasy, we did comic books, we've done comedy. What else have we done, Dan? I feel like I'm missing one.
Comics, action. No, we're doing action today. Animation.
Animation. We did animation, that's right. And today, like Dan said, we're looking at the world of action/adventure. Yes, the /adventure is important, especially as it comes to some of our lists. But we're looking at action films basically this week and trying to count down what we think have been the best of the decade so far. Obviously, Dan here is one of the Cinema Geeks with us today. How's it going, Dan?
Oh, it's going. It's going. Busy week.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and I'm Optimus Solo, your other host. Amanda, our normal third Cinema Geek, is currently not with us, but she does say hello to everybody. She is very sad that she's not here. She has had a long week. She had a long workday today, and she was invited out for some alcoholic beverages at the end of her workday. And that was 4 hours ago. And I was just getting home from work expecting us to be ready, and that is not the situation. She is praying to the porcelain god in the other room.
Ouch.
And I actually checked, and she actually specifically said that she wanted me to tell people this. I'm not throwing her.
I was wondering. I'm like, wow. I mean,
she said, "Let everybody know that I'm too drunk to record." Yeah. I don't know. You know, she says the Barry and Hyro always are claiming to be drunk during their records, and she wanted to take the literal meaning of that and actually be drunk. But she's actually too intoxicated to actually be on the record herself. So, and she specifically said, "Say that." And she wanted to call you D Jizzle. I don't know why, DJ, but she wanted to call you D Jizzle.
It's because I'm black. I appreciate being. I feel like the guy who's like reaching out his hand for like a man to tag me in, get me in the game.
And that's one of the things she's bummed about too, DJ. Is she really wanted to record with you because she hasn't had. I don't think she's had the opportunity to do that before.
Oh, well, if that's the case, I have to come on more often. I will, hopefully when she's middle intoxicated. I don't mind. I don't mind middle intoxicated.
But she was really looking forward to kind of being on here with you as well. She likes she's listened to a bunch of different stuff, podcasts lately, and she likes all the episodes that you're on. So she's sad that she misses that. But don't fear, people, especially those that have been keeping track of our comedy countdown and this, that, and the other. I know her list on the comedy show created quite the buzz in the comment section of the webpage as well as Twitter. But I actually have in my hand her list for the top 10 action films. So we're not missing out on her list. She's just missing out on the chance to defend.
We get to burn it. She can't stop us.
Yeah, exactly. And I told her if she came up with anything that she really wanted to be said during the course of the podcast, to just send me a message, and I'll repeat that on air. So if it's something I can like figure out and comprehend.
There's a question mark in this word.
Why is there symbols halfway through?
It's in hieroglyphics.
25-letter word. But like I said, we're talking about action-adventure. There's really not a whole bunch of criteria, but I still wanted to give all of you guys a chance to make any types of statements or, comments that go about with how you created your list, if there was any kind of criteria that you added, or if you broadened the definition of action per chance. So, Dan, how did you go about coming up with your top 10 list here for the action-adventure?
So, yeah, I kind of looked at those that had action and or adventure as a key component of what they were doing, because there were some movies I considered that had action in them, but that wasn't the driving force. Maybe it was more of a thriller or drama with an action scene here and there. So I just looked for my thought process similar to like when we did comedies and you have the comedy dramas. I was thinking like 60 to 70% had to be dedicated to action adventure for the most part. I might have some that cheat there, but that's the only criteria I had. So.
And Dan, how much of an action genre fan would you say you are?
I'm thinking I'm pretty solid action fan. Enjoy a great deal of martial arts films, and I do appreciate a well-crafted action film. So yeah.
All right. DJ, what about you? What kind of thought process were you kind of going through as you came up with your list of 10 films?
This was hard, but I tried to create a formula and quantify an equation that consisted of a combination of factors, including my personal must-sees of the decade so far, mixed with how much of the genre of action or adventure or both said film showcased, and added bonus points if there was a kick-ass female heroine, because I love kick-ass female heroines. All that gobbledygook is just for me to say that there are going to be movies on my list that are probably better than movies that are above it. So I was kind of trying to do some kind of math, but I realized I suck at math. So
I feel like that's the same, that what you just said was like the same type of statement that would be made by like M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong when he's trying he's trying to explain what his movie is about.
My film is kind of about an equation of a ghost, and then
I threw a kick-ass heroine in there.
And then I'm the savior of the world, but then there's a lady in the water. Yeah,
and then when you give your list, nothing happens.
Nothing happened, and I'm standing in the background going, "Hey, it's me! I directed this film."
DJ, how much of an action junkie are you?
It's funny because on our show, Matt is kind of the horror guy, and Justin is kind of the fringe. He as Masters knows like all the fringe grindhouse stuff. I'm kind of the designated comic book action person. So I mean, I've written soliloquies about Die Hard, so I know action kind of backwards and forwards.
Nice. I am by far then going to be the least intelligent sounding person when it comes to action films out of the tree.
Don't worry, I will judge you.
Judge away. I am opening the gates for everybody to judge me on this list. I have discovered that I guess maybe I'm not as big of an action fan as I thought I was at one point, or that I realized. I don't know, but I found myself struggling because we've already done a list on science fiction and fantasy, and we've already done a list on comic book movies.
Bleed over.
And I had to eliminate all of those films, obviously, and I was just trying to find those straight action films, and man, every film that I want to consider action, I really don't think is considered action by most people. So I guess my criteria is there had to be action involved.
Yes. But
you're going to see a lot of films that maybe better fit other genres, but my reasoning and my excuse is going to be that we're not doing a list on every possible genre out there. So if it didn't fit into another list and I could try to explain away why it fits into this list, it was giving me an excuse to talk about it. So you might see some genres or some movies that probably better fit a slightly different genre, but I promise there is at least a little bit of action involved in those films. So that is a big explanation for me. Saying
Gobbledygook to explain why some
I did not do as good a job as everybody else probably did on this. I'm like, which action film should I see, guys? And like, everyone's like, half this list isn't action, you retard.
Yeah, well, I think you tweeted to me, and I think JD from In Session, and then we were like, I don't think that's an action film.
You're like, I don't think that word means what you think it means.
We pulled in an eagle, Matthew. It's okay.
It's like, right. Yeah. There were good movies on that list, like Tribes. Yes, I'm like, that's not an action movie.
I did.
Ratatouille doesn't count, okay? Just make sure you...
Oh, I'm going to hear this over, and I'm just going to keep whatever you just said like on repeat so that I can just be like, that movie doesn't count. That movie doesn't count every time I reveal one.
Doesn't count, okay?
Nice. All right. Anything else that anyone needs to proclaim before we get into our number 10s?
Not yet. Maybe apologies later, but right now I feel good.
I'm so sorry.
I feel so bad. All right, then let's get right into it. DJ, since the female aspect of the Cinema Geeks is not here and she would usually go first, well, let's read her first one on the list, and then we'll let you go second as the honored guest. But her number 10, like I said, she's not here to defend herself, and I'm not going to try to, guess at what point this list was finalized. So maybe it was finalized 2 days ago when she was sober, and maybe it was finalized 2 hours ago when she was.
I hope it's the latter.
But her number 10 listed here is the film 3 Days to Kill.
3 Days to with
I don't think I've even seen it.
Kevin Costner
and Johnny Depp's girlfriend off again on wife lady. What's her name again?
I don't know.
Zombie. He was the zombie that Jesse Eisenberg kills in the beginning. I forget her name. Amanda Beard or something. I forget her name.
Amanda Heard no, Amber Heard's a different person.
Let's just keep naming names and we'll get one.
Gwen Stefani. No, that's not it at all.
I don't think I've even seen this film, so I can't comment.
I have seen that film.
It's like Kevin Costner doing Taken, but not as good.
It has the girl from True Grit. Was it Haley Steinfeld?
Haley Atwell?
No. Not picking. The girl from True Grit and Ender's Game and
let's just do this the whole podcast.
What's the name of that lady in that thing? No, I think it's Haley Steinfeld. I might be saying her last name wrong. And she's Kevin Costner's daughter, and he's kind of like a spy who's trying to get back with his daughter, but he has this mission where he's gonna die, and it's very like if they took Taken and they made it kind of charming, and it's not really. But
I remember seeing previews for this. I'm just impressed that Kevin Costner found his way into the discussion.
You know what's funny? He's not bad in it because he's just doing Kevin Costner. So it's like,
oh really?
Yeah. And Kevin Costner's likable enough, so you kind of like he's a likable action lead. It's just the movie itself, the story itself, which if you call it that, it's not that great. But
and you're right, it's Haley Steinfeld.
See, I knew what I was talking about. I said the name.
I got it wrong. I was incorrect.
Yeah, I think we had all the syllables in there somewhere.
It was a Haley. That's what I did.
All right. So that is Amanda's number 10. DJ, what about you?
I'm going to go with an adventure into your dreams. I'm starting with Inception. Like most popular things, the cynicism toward it has kind of like risen as time has passed. But I remember how I felt walking out of that movie. I remember the day I was in Orlando. I remember walking out of the Westlake movie theater. I was blown away, walking around questioning my own reality. Nolan managed to not only like tell a really unique and great story, but also give us visuals that had not been really done ever. The folding city, the hallway fight, the dream within a dream within a dream, Tom Hardy, everything about that film I just really like, and to this day, I'm one of the greatest soundtracks of all time with Hans Zimmer, and it just, I really, Justin brings this up a lot, that snow sequence is kind of like his love note to Bond films. It's just, there's a lot of good stuff in that movie, and it's like it's really like really emotional because it's kind of leans toward drama because of the whole Leo Marion Cotillard story angle. But if you want to watch it as an action piece, I mean, there's great action set pieces in that movie. The Mombasa chase,
the hallway fight is pretty good.
The hallway fight definitely is the one in which they did practically. Christopher Nolan's on the top list of one of the directors out now working that can make great set pieces, real set pieces, not blue screen digital stuff. He'll do it for real. He'll flip a truck for real, you know. Exception my number 10.
I just like the fact that we struggled with everybody's name in the previous movie discussion, but we got Marianne Cotillard right off the bat.
It's French.
Dan, reactions to Inception. I think we had that both listed on one of our previous lists, so we might not have included it here.
I didn't include it here because it wasn't science fiction. I think I had in like top 5 within science fiction. So I agree. I love Inception. So.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever met someone that doesn't like Inception.
Everybody I work with hates that film, and I work with like 30 people. They hate that film, and I'm like, why? Oh, it's so stupid. They don't like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's face. And
how do you work there?
I bite my tongue every day. It's hard.
Man, that's like working in a hostile environment.
It does. It's like I need hazard pay.
Man. All right. Well, I'll go next since I'm sure Dan's list is much more actiony than mine. And I'm going to go with a film that I feel like I like more than most people. And I even have rewatched it to make because I was like, maybe I just had a good first or second experience with it, and maybe I should rewatch it because nobody else likes this film. So I'm like, I'm going to watch it again, and I'm going to learn why I shouldn't like it. And I enjoyed it just as much that time. And I'm going to go with the 2010 film starring none other than Angelina Jolie, and that would be Salt.
Wow.
I know most people don't like this film.
I'm not even in the camp of not liking it. It's more like, I'm like, It's kind of like 3 Days to Kill. It's kind of like, it didn't hurt me. It was just like, that was on that blacklist, wasn't it? Salt was like one of the movies that was on, there's like a list of scripts that this shelved that was on a blacklist, and they eventually, because originally it was going to be Tom Cruise, because it was written for a man, and then it fell into production hell. It wasn't awful. Right. She's good in it. I like Angelina Jolie in pretty much anything.
I think that was mostly why maybe I was drawn to it, was at the time, 2010, especially like, seeing the female lead, especially in an action film like this, and some of the stuff they saw just really worked for me. You got Liv Schreiber and Ejiofor.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yeah, before most people even knew his name.
I don't know Haley Steinfeld, but I know how to say Chiwetel Ejiofor.
I don't know. For some reason, I just found it fun. Do I think it's like a great, like one of the best movies of like all time, or even of the decade? It won't make my list for best of the half decade so far. But if I'm just looking for like a fun action film, it's something that I can watch and just kind of sit back and turn my brain off and enjoy. So this is an example of how much I had to struggle to come up with 10 films. So Salt is my number 10. Dan, help me out. What's your number 10?
Well, my number 10, I've been going back and forth with the number 10. I had like 4 different films that I was going to put here. I think I finally settled on one, because I think I had some maybe that better fit action than this, but I felt this was the best out of the ones I was considering. And I talked about that ratio of like 60 to 70% action. This might actually break that on my list, but it does have some solid action set pieces. And when you can see someone like Saoirse Ronan, I'm saying that name incorrectly, I'm sure, but with Hannah is my number 10. And it's directed by Joe Wright. Her playing this like young female assassin with her dad being Eric Bana. I think there is a great story there. The middle section really, like I mentioned, doesn't have much action. It's her kind of getting acclimated into the real world after, basically being raised in the woods by her dad just to be this living weapon. So, but it also has one of my favorite climaxes with like an amazing set that was this random abandoned amusement park that they found, and it gives life a lot of character to the movie. It is very much like a modern day action fairy tale, oddly enough, and that set kind of ties it all together. So I'm sorry. That's it. That's all I got.
That movie always reminds. It's like every time I watch it, I just think it's just like if Big Daddy and Hit Girl was taken seriously, because it's like the same relationship. It's like, okay, look, I'm going to train you to be this murderous weapon. And Saoirse, I can't say her first name. The chick from Adaptation, she did. I think she did Adaptation. Then this, I believe.
Not that long after. Yeah.
And she did The Host, which I was like, oh man, you were on such a roll. I was in 2 good films, and then did it. But she's very good in this movie, and so is Kate Blanchett. It's one of the rich times, other than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. You see her play like a real bad person. So yeah.
She plays that big bad wolf type of character, and there's this random, like, I forget his name in the movie, but he's just the creepiest dude in the film. He's like this random assassin who has it's like a Pied Piper adaptation. It is kind of interesting, just the different things they have in it. But I do enjoy Hannah a great deal. So.
And that was one of those ones that was on the list of films that I listed. And my quick Netflix / Amazon search after that realized that my list was pretty poorly put together because I only had the option to watch like 2 of the ones I listed. And this was not one of the ones I had.
What is wrong with you? What's wrong?
Yeah, so I wish I would have saw this last night, but I didn't. I saw a different film instead that did not make my list. So I will put this on the list of stuff I need to see. If we're going back to Amanda here for number 9, she's doing something with her number 9 pick that I'm going to be doing later on. And that is using the action / adventure genre as an excuse to try to kind of horn in a Western.
Okay.
And
I want to see that equation.
I love the Western. She's got me already.
So for her number 9 pick, she's going for another 2010 film, and that would be True Grit from the Coens with Jeff Bridges.
We just said Haley Steinfeld. She keeps showing up.
And who knew? Who knew that an action-adventure list was going to be dominated by Haley Steinfeld?
She loves Haley Steinfeld. Ender's Game is on this list. I guarantee you.
Haley Steinfeld is to her action to what Melissa McCarthy is to comedy, I guess.
It's like the Arnold Schwarzenegger of the 80s.
You don't have an action film unless you have Haley Steinfeld in it.
Exactly.
I guess. But what do you guys think of the film?
I love True Grit. I do. It's I didn't consider it because it was a Western, but yeah, I'm a big fan of that film.
So in lieu of having our own Western list, we found a way to shoehorn a couple in.
It's a stretch for an action because it's very minimalist. I mean, when they do get to the action, it's great. But the thing about Westerns are where they're hard to be put in action. The great thing about Westerns are drawing out the tension. So if you go into a Western and expect like an action sequence, you're going to be waiting for, unless it's The Quick and the Dead and Sam Raimi. If you're walking into Unforgiven, one of the greatest Westerns of all time, it's going to take a while before you see something great, but that's what makes a Western. You have to draw out. You have to have Angel Eyes stare at Clint, and Clint stare at Eli Wallach, and it's long, and then they shoot. That's not really that's the stretch of an action to a Western. That's why they're two different genres. But I'll let this go because True Grit is freaking awesome. So.
All right. So, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this film as well. It did not make my list, but I'm going to give her a pass since I will also have something that is kind of like a pseudo-Western in my list later on. So, but yeah, I think this is a great film. So if it gives us an excuse to mention it, I'm all for it. DJ, what do you got for number 9?
I don't know if you all notice about me, but I really, really love Predator. And none of its subsequent sequels, I think, captures the tone or the adrenaline and the masculine action of Predator than Predators. That film, I think, is one of the it's like the truest sequel to the first one. I know a lot of people who hate on this film, but I think the people who make it, when you watch it from the word go, you can tell they appreciate it because you can just see it. They love Predator, and they try and match every tonal thing that was in the one with Arnold and Carl Weathers and then Bill Duke. It just seems like that film just seems to grab everything. They have the shoot in the woods scene. They have the running scene. They have everything that was great about the first Predator. They try and replicate. They might not do it perfectly, but I think they hit on enough for me that it's reminded me of Predator. So I like Predators a lot. And I've heard many people destroy this film, and I'm like, well, did you want AVP 2? Did you want AVP? Did you want Predator 2 with Danny Glover running through Los Angeles, dripping buckets of sweat? I prefer this one because this one, to me, if you would have played the first Predator and then this one, it fits right into that world. So I'm going with Predators.
Amanda is going to be super bummed that she's not a part of this discussion because she could talk Predator with you for hours.
Awesome. That's a smart lady. She's a smart lady. She likes Haley Steinfeld. She likes Predator. She's a smart lady.
Right, she loves the Predator franchise. I actually cannot believe that this is not on her list. But
maybe she didn't watch it because I know people that see Topher Grace and go, "Oh my God, Topher Grace is like acid." But but I mean, I really love. I kind of like what Adrian Brody was doing in here, though people kind of laugh like he's doing this really gravelly voice. My name is Royce, and you got Danny Trejo, you got Lawrence Fishburne playing a crazy person.
With his gigantic head.
Gigantic head who's the size of a watermelon. You got frickin' Walton Goggins from one of my favorite shows, Justified, as he's the least crazy. He's a psychopath, and he's less crazy than Lawrence Fishburne. It's weird. But yeah, it's got some really good stuff in there. Great action pieces. They replicate the Billy fight with the Yakuza guy. It's a great film. If you like Predator 1, you should, not saying it's as good as Predator. It's just these people are fans of Predator, and they try to make their own kind of like a fan fiction version of it, and that's how I see Predators.
Nice. All right. For my number 9, actually, my first part of my list is all still fitting into the action genre. I haven't swayed yet. I haven't started kind of fudging the rules a little bit. And for my number 9, it is definitely an adventure film. I don't know. You could maybe question the amount of action that's in there, but it's definitely kind of an adventure thriller, and that is 2011's film starring Liam Neeson, and that would be The Grey.
I don't know about this because my number 9 is The Grey as well. So,
so I'm not going to get opposition from you on this one.
No.
And I know, I had to find a way to get Liam Neeson in here somewhere, right? So
no, Taken 2 then. But I am shocked.
I don't want to reveal the rest of my list, but and this was also a fun experience for me, just theater-wise. It was one of the first movies I ever got to see, kind of like as an early screening, and that was something I didn't even realize was possible at my young age 4 years ago. So just being able to see it before it came out was like cool to me, and I just like. I like the types of kind of survival films that this kind of falls into, but I like the way that it kind of didn't just fall into some of the cliches that you get with a lot of those films. I had no problem with the way it ended, like some people did. I thoroughly enjoyed all of this film, and I don't want to get too much into it in case I guess there's people that haven't seen it, but Dan, what did you think? Why did it make your list as well?
I think like The Grey is one of those movies that's like a million times better than it had any
business.
It didn't even be that good.
It got billed as I think people thought it'd be like Taken, but with instead of him fighting like people in France, it was him fighting wolves. But that really wasn't what it was at all.
I can almost imagine him on the phone with a wolf. I know who you are. I know what you want.
That might happen, but I thought there was just some really actually powerful scenes. One that comes to mind is like after the airplane crash, like him going to the guy who's dying and like the conversation he has, and it is this huge allegorical exploration of people and how they deal with death. It's obvious in that way, but it is an adventure film at heart as well, and some great adventure set pieces, and with them like climbing the ropes comes to mind. There's a lot of those, and having those wolves always there. So it's just, to me, ended up being a lot more. There's a lot more cinematically, there's a lot more going on than I anticipated, and I think it's just a film that, like I said, it kind of got, I think, it was released in January. People thought it'd be this kind of like The Edge 2 type of movie, but it ended up being a lot more.
Yeah, I think it could have fallen into a lot of different traps there, but like you said, it was an action adventure film, more so adventure, but it also had like the feel of something that's much more serious, much more almost award-worthy, like this, like you're talking about, the cinematography, the visual aspect of it, the framing of scenes, everything that was going into it. It was like, it wasn't just an action film that we don't care about any of that stuff, we're just going to throw a bunch of action set pieces at you and hope it works. It was like they actually took their time and paid attention to detail and put a little bit more effort into it than you get a lot of times with that genre or with that specific type of like a survival film that I saw. So I really appreciated that more than I thought it was going to. Like you said, it came out early in the year and it had every opportunity to be a complete dud. So
it showed a lot of restraint, and especially the way it used the wolves. Like an easy comparison is to the shark in Jaws, and how. Yeah. They were more, you kind of felt their presence than actually see their presence, and I thought that was an effective way of like kind of using them. So,
the thing about Carnahan is he always there are a bunch of like kind of like bipolar directors out there where sometimes they'll do something that's like wow, that was really good, and then be like, wait, why'd you do that? Exactly. So Carnahan will do like Narc, and then he'll do Smoking Aces, and then he'll do The Grey, and then he'll do A-Team. And then he'll do the Black. He's like one of the big guys behind The Blacklist, and then he'll do Stretch. He's kind of like all over the place. So
he's like Soderbergh, but even more bipolar.
Soderbergh is super bipolar. He has false names. Okay, Soderbergh's all over the place.
Exactly.
Nice. All right, so a double take of The Grey there at our number 9 picks, which I guess we'll flip it back all the way to Amanda for her number 8, and it appears that she has a cheat on her list.
Again, just cheated.
Number 8. And then this time, we're not cheating the genre so much as we're cheating by putting 2 films in one slot. And it looks like she has Kick-Ass 1 and 2 in her number 8 slot.
She didn't have to cheat. Just put Kick-Ass 1 and be done with it.
So she's putting the whole franchise, I guess, in her number 8 spot. Dan, did you have this, or did one of us have this listed in the comic book?
I had it in I think I had it in my top 10 comic
I think I had it on mine, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a couple people probably had it in that other genre, but she has it here in her action list. And I don't think she's alone. I think a lot of people love the Kick-Ass, at least the first one.
The first one.
But not a big fan of the second one, do you?
The first one, yeah. Once Matthew Vaughn leaves, you need to leave too.
Bad things happen.
Yeah, the second one I felt like was made by someone who didn't get the joke.
Yeah. I mean, I know they understood. First off, it's a big gaping hole where Nick Cage used to be. It's like, okay, you need Nick Cage. There's not enough, and that was supposed to be Jim Carrey, but like right before that movie started, Jim Carrey's like, well, I'm not promoting this movie because I'm against violence, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So he never filled.
That's a head scratcher.
Yeah, he never filled the void that because Big Daddy is such. I mean, it was almost like a perfect formula in the first Kick-Ass with, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Nick Cage, Chloe Moretz, or what do you want to call her? It was and Mark Strong.
We're doing much better with the names here.
I know Kick-Ass. The second one is just like, it just felt like a studio version of it. It didn't feel like the original where it was like, it just felt kind of hollow. It didn't have the same juice as the first one did.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the second one, so I can't comment. But like I said, a lot of people love the first one. So whether you have it here in the action genre or if you put it in the comic book, I think it's probably at least should be in the discussion for one of them.
She didn't cheat. So, she didn't cheat. It's Kick-Ass 1, you're done.
There we go. No cheating involved. So, DJ, where do you go with your number 8?
I love this recent trend of great directors and DPs and actors, award winners, in fact, bringing their talents to something as fun and trendy as a Bond film. So I'm going with Skyfall. It's like Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins doing a Bond film is like LeBron in a pickup game or Neil deGrasse Tyson consulting on Star Wars. It's like, what are you doing here? I mean, they're at the top of their game, and they make possibly the most gorgeous, well-shot Bond film of all time, at least for me. And other than looking great, you really have some terrific action scenes, and with the 007 feel. And a lot of people, the proponents, like cynicism always grows over time, like I told you with Inception. And some people crap on Skyfall, but I mean, because they dare to show Bond with a heart. But I mean, on top of that, Bond may have a heart, but he's still cold as. If you think Bond has a heart in this movie, go back to the scene where, spoiler alert, Severine is against like a statue head, and Javier Bardem is forcing him to shoot the glass off her head, James, and Bond can't save her. Spoiler alert again, and. Once, what do you think of that? He just goes, bad waste of scotch. And that's it. If you think Bond is not cold-blooded enough for you after that scene, he's awesome. And that movie, the set pieces, the motorcycle chase in the beginning on the train, the running down this Whitehall in England with the courthouse, the subway thing, going into all that stuff is just well done. And it's beautiful. Every shot is like you can you can pause it. Every shot is beautiful. So yeah, Skyfall's my number 8.
All right. Great pick. And I think we'll probably hear from one of us at least later on for more on that film, if I know Dan and myself well. For my number 8, for my number 10 and my number 9, I definitely had an action film and I definitely had an adventure film. I would now like to dedicate my number 8 slot to a film I couldn't fit in anywhere else. Because most people are not going to call this action or adventure, but there's guns involved and there's police involved. Is that enough?
That's fine.
I'm going with 2012's film End of Watch.
Oh, that's good. David Ayer.
Yeah, I mean, it's crime, it's kind of action, but it's probably not going to fit the percentage that Dan's talking about. It's probably got more than 50% drama and less than 50% action. But it's Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's Michael Pena, and it's David Ayer, and it's a great film. So
I mean, those police siege scenes are like heart stomping. You know, I mean, those are really well done. So,
and this is a film too that I usually, sometimes when a certain film work is done, people talk about shaky cam or this, that, and the other, or different stuff like that, and it can throw you off or it can disrupt you, or a lot of people don't like that. But I thought the way that they filmed this movie actually works super well for what they were trying to get across and kind of putting you in the scene and putting you kind of at that vantage point. I thought it worked well the way they did it in this one.
I think it works because we're kind of like the cops generation, so we were used to seeing like police officers with the whole handheld camera stuff from that,
right?
Rescue 911, all that other stuff. So seeing cops doing that, that's a little Rescue 911 shout out.
My mom used to watch that
every night. It's very addictive. But because we've seen cops in that scenario before, we're used to it. Other than like, we're going to a school where my friends died, and we're going to videotape the whole thing and keep the camera the whole time. That doesn't make any sense. But if it's a cop, you can kind of see it now. So I think of End of Watch. That David Ayer, another bipolar, he'll do Sabotage, and then he'll do End of Watch.
Oh man, talk about it. Yeah,
So, yeah.
I mean, if you look at quality action over quantity, I think certainly End of Watch has some really quality action sequences, like you mentioned, like the siege sequences, the shootout sequences are just super intense, and in large part because of the directorial the choice to do the more the shaky cam, or the whatever you want to call it, if it's a found footage but not really type of movie. But I do think I like how he cheats with it though, and he doesn't feel obligated to keep that type of concept. He'll kind of he'll shoot in that method, but he'll not act like a camera has to be there at all times. So I think it ends up making it a lot more effective. So, and
just like you liked how he cheats with that, hopefully people will like that I cheated to get this film into my countdown. So
I think you qualify. I think it's close. I think it's close enough. Right. I think it's especially because you have a David Ayer. It's not like it's like Michael Gondry or somebody. It's not
I knew there was a reason I was excited you were going to be this.
I'm like your lawyer.
All right, Dan, what do you got at your number 8?
Well, my number 8, I think there's no question that it's an action film, and for myself, like many people, this is the movie that kind of turned this franchise around into actually making it from a joke to something actually to take seriously, at least in an action standpoint. And it helps when you add The Rock into your movie. He is, like they say, franchise for Viagra, and that is, of course, Fast 5. I was not a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise up to this point. I think actually, I just despised most of them, but Fast 5 just was, it just all kind of made sense and in illogical ways, but the action set pieces were so well done. The Rock, it was a lot of fun in it. I think he really brought new energy to it, and seeing him kick the crap out of Vin Diesel is always a good time in my book. So, and there's just some incredible action sequences. The train sequence and the final chase all are well done, and that cast, while they may not be the best actors in the world, they do have great chemistry, and I think it really started with Fast 5. I debated which one to go with, Fast 5 or Fast 6. And I think overall I enjoyed Fast 5 just a tad more. So,
for the record, as much as I've ragged on this franchise for the entire existence of it, I did heavily consider putting one of those two films on my list.
I didn't.
I couldn't pull the trigger. I couldn't do it. I felt like
remind me, is this the one where The Rock says, "Give me the damn veggies"? Is this that one?
I don't remember dialogue.
You don't remember speaking.
Dialogue in these films?
Things were driving and things were blowing up, and then The Rock showed up, and then.
Exactly.
Awesome.
I kind of had to balance my list with like this, because I think when I get to the top of it, some people might question it if it's so I had to put like a dumb action film in it to kind of.
Well, I think you saved us, because I think if we would have gone through our entire list and never even at least mentioned the Fast and Furious franchise, people probably would have got pitchforks.
But those people work at Hot Topic, and they drive they drive cars with spinning rims. Okay.
Yeah. They live in their parents' basement, but have a souped-up car that they waste that they don't do anything with.
They don't have a job, so they can work on the car all day. So it works. All right, so that is everybody's number 8. We're going to skip past Amanda's number 7, because as I'm looking at it, it is also my number 7. So I will save it for a second and let you go first, DJ, with your number 7.
I'm going with, and now this is kind of a cheat because it was on another list, but I have to. I just watched this today. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. What can I say about this film that I haven't said on this before? After watching it over and over and over again, like I said today, in fact, it is like it's grown to now my 1B of favorite comic book films ever, a hair down from the Avengers. But what it has that the Avengers doesn't is really well done action set pieces that feel like action set pieces in a non-comic book film. Avengers is geekgasm, comic book splash pages come to life, yes, which I love. But Winter Soldier has really grounded action, or at least the most grounded of any MCU film. And again, I have to say this: Captain America versus Winter Soldier street fight, faux life. That fight scene, to this day, it's one of the best. I mean, I listened to the commentary for that movie, and the Russo brothers, they're saying, "Oh yeah, we our inspiration for this the street chase, which is like my favorite action set piece of the movie, was Heat." And you can tell, he goes, this must have been what it felt like when Michael Mann was shooting Heat. And it's not as good as Heat. I'm not saying it's as good as Heat. But that's what they were going for, and you feel it. It's visceral. That scene, spoiler alert, when Black Widow gets shot in the back, it's like, what? The comic book characters don't get shot? What's going on here? I mean, Captain America gets shot in this movie like 4 times. You're a hero. So yeah, that because Captain America: Winter Soldier is like one of my favorite comic book films, and I think it's the most, not to like the Dark Knight or something like that, but it's just for an MCU film, it's the most grounded action film they have so far. So I'm going.
And DJ, you and I were both guests on an In Session Film podcast. I don't know, a couple months back, and we were talking about the best. I don't know if it was specific Marvel, but we were talking about the best fight scenes, I believe, in the Marvel universe, and this came up on, I think, all 3 of them.
I think it was my number 1. It might have been. It was either that or Spider-Man versus Doc Ock. It was one of the 2.
Right, and so, I mean, I think this is, we're in full agreement here. This is great. That street action scene is just ridiculous. And Dan, I know you're going to be full support of this, even if it is a comic book film.
Yeah, I'll just say ditto, and that's pretty much,
And for more thoughts on Captain America, go back and listen to our top comic book
films. Listen to me geek out about Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Or just tune in to DJ anytime.
Call me on the phone. I will geek out about it.
Awesome. All right, so I'll get back to the number 7 that both Amanda and myself had. Again, I did not see her list until she handed it to me in a drunken stupor half hour ago.
Drunker and drunker as this story goes on.
But it just happens that we have a one in common here, and I guess I didn't realize I was putting it back to back with another Michael Pena and David Ayer film, but both of our number 7 is the 2014 film Fury. And again, we've had a little bit of Western, we've had a little crime police movie, now we're going war style, but I think it's still got action in it, and...
Radio's 86, we're on our own. Good shot.
Oh, that wasn't me. No, I'm the instrument, not the hand. God didn't call us today. You hear me, boys?
What's he doing up there? Big paradise. When else came up, snake eyes but us.
Lord's protection.
We got it, don't we, boys?
Yes, sir.
We got it.
Sir.
Norm mowed them down, didn't he, too?
Hey, good job, Norm.
Welcome to the Army, Norm.
You did good.
Best job ever.
Best job ever.
Best job ever. Best job ever.
I think that it counts for that, and this was one of my, until I got to catch up with the rest of 2014, like in the last month or the first month of 2015, for a long time this was kind of one of my favorite films of 2014 until I saw Whiplash and a couple other things finally. But I think this is done super well. I think the tension, especially in a few of those scenes, like the dinner scene, is crazy. And I mean, there's
not an action set piece, but it's still freaking nuts.
Right, but just to set the tension that then kind of follows through these characters as you kind of see them have the tension there, but then, work somewhat as a team, I guess, in the tank, and just the craziness. I mean, you got to see some gruesome stuff there. I mean, that was that first scene where they're cleaning out the tank from the previous owner. Man.
Pastor Troy was in there because somebody's face got taken off.
That was brutal. So I'm going to agree 100% with Amanda's number 7, so much so that I put it at my own.
Yeah, one thing about that film it's almost overlooked is that it's like probably the only. Remind me if I'm forgetting one tank action film that I've seen that was. I was like, what other tank action?
And the thing that's amazing about that is, like, I'm thinking back to like the early video games, like before Nintendo, when you had like 2 tanks fighting each other. Like, I had one for the Intellivision back in the day, and yeah, I played it a lot, but it illustrates, like, this is like one of the most boring possible war video games we could possibly play. Like, we're 2 tanks, we're moving at half a mile an hour, and trying to turn ourselves so that we can possibly get at each other and then fire. Like, in the video game, it was that dull. And then for them to make it as invigorating as I think it was in the film is just, like, ridiculous. Like, I can't think of anything else that's ever done that.
There's this movie Lebanon that was made, and I think I forget exactly. It's not an action film, but it's set not set entirely in a tank, because that would be an awful movie. But the actors are pretty much all within the tank going across. But it's not. It's more of a dramatic movie. But it's the only other movie I can think where a tank is the centerpiece of a film.
Yeah, I mean, because it's basically a character in this.
This is like the best Shia LaBeouf performance we've had. Is this ever? Is this the best?
Since he started doing performance art,
other than putting a bag over his head.
I don't know. Even Stevens. I mean, that was pretty good.
I was going with Holes, but you gotta go with even Stevens. Like I can buy that. I can buy that.
All right, so a double dose of fury at number 7 for Amanda and myself. Dan,
well, I said with Fast Five, I didn't remember any of the dialogue. With my number 7, I memorized it all because there's basically one word in the entire movie, and this goes back into the adventure. So if you look at like my Fast Five in this movie, you might get whiplash with just the dramatic shift in tone and quality of film, and that's all is lost. Robert Redford's film, adventure film of him getting kind of stranded at sea and what happens there. So, again, that might stretch the action standpoint, but it's just a movie so well told. And J.C. Chandler, man, can't say his name correctly, but like if you look at Margin Call, which came before this, which was such a dialogue-driven movie, and then All Is Lost, like I can't think of a more drastic shift of film than that. And it's really well told. Robert Redford, his best performance in years, obviously, and there are also some really great sequences, especially within like the storms and what was done practically as well. So it's. I know some people have some issues with it because it's hard to watch a movie when nothing's happening. But I don't know. I was just captivated the entire time, and I just thought it was just, I don't know. There's something about Robert Redford's character that I was able to go to, and it's also one of my favorite endings of that year.
Yeah.
So
I think it counts kind of like an adventure because it's kind of like Castaway on a boat instead of on an island.
Yeah.
But he is trying. He's dealing with all this stuff. I guess it's akin to something like a Gravity, where he's trying to survive, and that might bleed into the adventure kind of realm. Right. So
and it's kind of like what would happen if the guy didn't necessarily have all the skills he needed to get the job done. So it comes into play.
And, I'm ashamed to say that I still haven't.
It's on Netflix, so you can add that to your list.
All right. Second one I'm adding to the list for.
You should have got a nomination. I think Robert Redford even came out and said like they didn't promote this movie enough and blah blah blah. It was very, very good in it.
So I still haven't seen A Most Violent Year. So even though I loved his first 2 films, but hopefully soon. So
yeah, that's definitely worth a watch. All right, so that brings us back around. And if you were trying to keep track as to what point during the countdown that the alcohol took over. For Amanda, I think it is coming here when we get to the number 6 and the number 5 pick as I'm looking at her list. And she's not here to defend herself, so I can say that. So her number 6, a lot of people are going to have problems with, and I wish she was here to defend herself, but it is 2014's film 300, Rise of an Empire.
I'm not going to hate. You know why?
All right, you're making my friend.
I love Eva Mendes. Not Eva Mendes, Eva Green, sorry. Got my Evas mixed up. I love both of them. She was in the movie too. But no, Eva Green is awesome. It's Eva Green. Eva Green is so good in that movie. And I love Kick-Ass Heroines, and she's one of the baddest in the whole film. She's essentially the evil Leonidas in that movie. So.
Right. So I'm not sure. Did he shoot that guy with an arrow from across the...
It was about 7 miles. It's all right.
I didn't see it. I can't remember if I saw it 1 or 6 times in that film. The replay of that happening over and over and over again. But I mean, it's hard, I guess, to live up to what 300 did. No, you can't do it.
Especially when it comes 10 years later.
And it's too late.
Yeah, I mean, it was a failed adventure from the beginning. But I mean, I think there were parts that could have
hug on to if you're an Eva Green fan, you'll like this movie because she is the movie. It's not whoever I forget his name. I think he's on that new show Blind Spot. Stapleton, I think he's the hero. I think that's his last. Yeah, it might be. He's cardboard. He's Sam Worthington. So you don't worry about him. Hey,
I thought it was Sam Worthington.
It could have been. I wouldn't even know. But if you hang on to Eva Green. If you hang on to Vesper Lynn, you will be fine because she goes. choose all of the scenery available. Like Xerxes is like, yo, hey, I'm dressed like Xerxes. Can I get like a shot in this movie? Really.
That bedroom scene is
yeah. It's, again, if you're a fan of Eva Green, you might not be annoyed by this choice.
All right, so that is her number 6, 300 Rise of an Empire. DJ, what do you got at number 6?
Mama, Judgment Time. I'm going with Dredd.
Inhabitants of Peach Trees. This is Judge Dredd.
Let him talk.
In case you people have forgotten, this block operates under the same rules as the rest of the city. Mama is not the law. I am the law.
I freaking love Dredd.
You and Amanda would be best friends in this episode. She wasn't sure if that was disqualified for any kind of like science fiction elements or not, because I know she wanted to put this on her list, so she'd be happy that you're giving her a chance to talk about it.
Not only because it scrubbed away the memory of Sly Stallone's version of the character, not only because it was way better. You guys were talking about Gray. This movie was way better than I thought it was going to be going in.
Yes.
Like I was like, this is going to suck, and I was like, what the? I loved it for knowing what it was and embracing it. It's grim, it's gruesome, it's uncompromising, but it's fun. I mean, I've been a huge fan of Carl Urban since like probably Star Trek 2009 or even Born Supremacy, but he nails what I've always imagined, because I've read the books. I've always imagined Dredd to be, and you can tell he read the books too. He paid attention. He nails his character, like Hugo Weaving nailed V. He's like, I'm not going to show my face. I know what Dredd is, and he's doing like this Eastwood thing, so it's kind of like you get to see Clint Eastwood in the sci-fi film. He's doing his Clint Eastwood thing. He's talking like this the whole time. It's awesome. So great. Lena Headey is, of course, a great foil. She's Cersei, for Christ's sake. The 3D is very well done, and again, some people hate 3D. This is probably one of the best 3D films you're going to see if you're kind of on the fence about it. The effects are great. The slow-mo was used as a plot point instead of just for garnish. So, like, they only kind of use the slow-mo when somebody's taking that drug slow-mo, or I think it's called slow-mo. I believe that's what it's called.
Yeah, slow-mo.
Yeah, so when they go into the slow-mo shot, it's because you're getting it through the perspective of somebody who's on the drug. So they kind of like, so it's stylistic, but it's also very cool. The filmmakers were just making decision after decision and using creativity that just appealed to me, and it's just the action. So it's awesome. It's awesome. Dredd is awesome.
Amanda's going to hate that what I'm about to say, but they figured it out with this. And instead of trying to take a film that was good and rebooting it, they went back and found something that maybe had a good idea, but just wasn't done properly the first time. And that's what reboots and remakes, if you're going to do them, they should be based on something that just didn't work the first time, not something that was already great. And then trying to make it again. Doing
it and not feeling the need to do an origin story and just kind of dropping you in the world and then like, this is it, and giving you everything you need to know.
Right. So that know Dredd. You know Dredd from the first scene. You're like, okay, I know everything I need to know about this guy. I'm done. I got it. Thank you, Alex Garland, ex-Machina guy, he knew it. He was like, look, we know who Dredd is. He's just, sometimes in action films, you want a one-note guy. And Dredd is just uncompromising one note, and you get to see it chip away from being, this the law, it's the law. And as stuff goes on, as he sees what Anderson is showing him, it's like, oh, maybe you see kind of Dredd's conviction crack or shake a little bit, and I thought that was really cool. Way more than I got from Sly Stallone, who was just, I don't know what I'm doing. He had no idea what he was doing.
But, I mean, to be fair, that did have Rob Schneider, too.
Yeah, no, that garbage. Yeah, no. This Dredd is awesome. It's on the surface, it's just a great action film. But if you're a fan of comic books, you know, and you've probably already seen this movie, and you like this movie a lot.
Right. All right, great pick there for number 6. And for my number 6, I don't know what your guys' take is on this franchise or of the second film in the franchise, but I've loved all of it so far. And we're going more of an action mystery route, I guess you could say. And for my number 6, I'm going with the 2011 film Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows from Guy Ritchie.
I debated putting this on my list so hard because I think the only reason I did it is I liked the first one better. But
I do like the first one better, and obviously some of the elements of the first one are transferred right over into the second one. But I gotta like the way they decided to do some of the action in this franchise and some of those slow sequences where they kind of just tell you what's about to happen. Not that hasn't been done now a million times in different films, but I just remember it mostly from this franchise. And I mean it's RDJ and it's Jude Law and it's fun, and it's adventurous, and it's got action pieces in it, so I think it fits the genre, so I'm trying to get back in line with that. So I'm a big fan of Sherlock Holmes, the whole franchise. Dan, do you like the second one?
I like it. I think you guys probably like it a little bit more than me. I think I agree that I probably liked the first one more. I don't know, something about it. Like they were fine. It just felt more style than substance, I would say. But I do like Guy Ritchie's style, and maybe I just have higher expectations with him since I love Snatch so much, but they're enjoyable. I would say that, and I do think the one sequence that comes to mind with Game of Shadows is like that wood sequence with the slow motion and like the explosion of the cannonballs, which is really well done. So I just remember finding the ending of Game of Shadows or the second half, just especially with some of the characters, I felt like kind of the way they handled like Rachel McAdams' character felt like a little disheartening, and
that I agree with that.
Yeah, but overall, I would agree that it does fit the genre of action for sure, especially the way that RDJ plays him as this like a boxer. So
the thing about Sherlock Holmes, I think I've said this before, the character is that it can be done in completely different ways, and they don't hurt each other, because I love Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock show. I like Elementary way more than I should, John Lee Miller's Sherlock, and I love RDJ Sherlock, and they're three completely different Sherlock Holmes, but you can enjoy them equally. And I love John Lee Miller's version of Moriarty. I won't spoil it in Elementary because it's a very big departure of what Moriarty is. I love Jared Harrod as Moriarty in this. And I love, I forget, he's Inspector, Benedict Cumberbatch's version of Moriarty. You can take those characters because they scrap elements of them, and they know which ones they can put something creative around it, but they keep the heart of it. And I think RDJ knows who Sherlock Holmes is. He wants to personify more of the drug addict, really deranged version of Sherlock Holmes more. So, but yeah, and that final scene with him and Moriarty, the chess they're playing in their head, I thought was really well done.
All right, so number 6 for me, Sherlock Holmes: Game of Shadow. Dan, what's your number 6?
My number 6 is my first foreign film, and I talked about that ratio, and it helps when you end your movie with a 45-minute gigantic kind of battle action sequence, and it's all kind of built up to that moment, but it's when you have a good director, a moment like that can work. And Takeshi Miike is definitely one of those directors who sometimes can be great, sometimes can make some bad movies. But he, with 13 Assassins, I thought he hit it out of the park. It is basically what it says it is: great samurai film, and sets up the story perfectly, has a great build, and then just that final action sequence that is, like I said, is a 45-minute battle sequence, but it's directed so well. There's a progression to it. It never gets tedious or boring. So that's what really made it my list. That's why I made it my list, because just the way he was able to portray story through action with that. So it's a really great film. And being a fan of samurai movies, there have been tons of them. It's hard to kind of ignite something new into the genre, but I felt like he did with 13 Assassins.
All right.
I've only seen bits and pieces, but I'm coming around some vacation time. I'm going to get on that because you're not the first person to bring up 13 Assassins to me like, you haven't seen 13 Assassins. I was like, I've seen parts. It's like, no, you need to sit down and you need to watch freaking 13 Assassins. and
yeah, I saw it on a lot of lists when doing some research for this, and it's definitely something. It's the third film I'm jotting down to.
It's on my queue. It's on my queue. I want to watch. I want to sit down, make us like a Saturday afternoon, and just sit down and watch it. So.
Yeah, it like I said, be patient because it does take some time to build, but then once it gets there, it does not stop. So.
Excellent. Well, like I said, we could kind of tell the alcohol was starting to kick in with Amanda's number 6. I said it's going to continue with number 5, but before I get to that, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to go make sure she's not suffocating in her own vomit.
Jimi Hendrix.
Then we'll be back right after this with our top 5 action films of the last 5 years. Stick with us.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Optimus Solo and
Hard Candy Mandy.
And we just wanted to let you guys know about another podcast out there that we both think you would all enjoy.
It's one of both of our favorite shows to listen to, and it's none other than the True Bromance Podcast.
True Bromance is a movie podcast hosted by longtime friends Hyro and Barry, and if you like to smile, laugh, and just be genuinely entertained while listening to movie talk, then this is definitely the right show for you.
Each week, the guys break down a recently released movie, and not only do they tie in the movie that week to the beers that they are drinking during the show,
but they also tie it in to a real fun top and bottom 5 list associated with that movie.
It's a blast hearing both sides of these lists, and it definitely makes them unique amongst all other movie review podcasts.
So we definitely want to recommend all of you guys to go check out their show. Just search out the True Bromance Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and all other podcast platforms. And if you listen via iTunes, do us a favor and leave them a 5-star review. And don't forget to let them know that the Cinema Geeks sent you.
On the Simplistic Reviews podcast, we talk movies. We talk TV. We talk...
Hello, Julie, what the heck are you doing?
Trying to make our spots sound more exciting by adding explosions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have got the point across with sound effects, not the real thing. Car.
Download this show on iTunes or at simplisticreviews.blogspot.com.
I'm sure your insurance company will cover that.
No, they won't.
No, they probably won't.
All right, thanks for sticking with us. I'm proud to report that Amanda is alive and well, and she is no longer praying to the porcelain god. She is just cuddled up on the couch, I think half sleeping, so... with a bucket by her, so it's all good. The cats are keeping her company, so she said she's feeling better, so that's good. So, like I said, right before the break, I kind of left you with a cliffhanger saying that there was some alcohol-induced picks at her number 6 and possibly coming up with her number 5. I think probably her number 5 will draw the most ire from the panel as well as the listeners.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
This is the one.
It doesn't start with
a T,
does it? It doesn't start with a T, does it? Oh,
no, it does not start with a T. This is going to get her in trouble. But if you follow her at all on Twitter, or if you listen to Cinema Geeks and you know her movie taste, you know that she is the one and only Jai Courtney fan on the planet. And her number 5 pick, let's just pretend that this is written in a way that I can't read it. It's a good way to die hard.
I just died. I think I just died hard. That is the worst.
Man.
Holy catastrophe!
Maybe she was drunk and she thought it.
Maybe she tried to say Divergent. Maybe that's what she was trying to say. I'd take that over the Good Day to Die Hard.
We're going to let her put the exception of putting a film that not only was not the last 5 years, but was not the last 20 years, and say that she said Die Hard.
She was like, Die Hard, good. Die Hard.
She was thinking Die Hard, but on the sheet it said a good day.
It's a good day to watch Die Hard. That's what she wrote on there. That's what she wrote.
That's what she thought it said, yes. So I'm just going to give her a pass and say that's what she meant, and that's a mistake.
There's no... Bruce Willis hates that movie. It killed John McClane. Killed him. Hans Gruber is envious of this movie because it killed him.
Maybe she hasn't even seen it, and she just said it's Die Hard, and she likes Jai Courtney.
1 + 1 does not equal 2 there. That is...
Not in this case.
That is a false negative. Oh.
Let's just pretend that we're moving on, and... TJ, save us. What's your number 5?
People keep asking me if the 5th film on my list is John Wick. Yeah, I'm thinking it's John Wick.
And your son took that from me. Stole that from me. Killed that from me! People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. So you can either hand over your son, or you can die screaming alongside him!
Let me tell you something about John Wick, okay? He is the most murderously efficient, one note in a good way, original action hero we've seen in a very, 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 very long time. John Wick, the character, is a man built on mythos. John Wick, the film, is gritty, but like a stylish, like, throwback to, like, 90s that I ate up like cotton candy, man. It's like, yeah, it may be empty calories, but it tastes so good. And the fact that these are the guys behind, like, The Matrix, I believe. They did a lot of. I think they also, sadly, did the Agent 47. They did some of the action set pieces for that. But this movie, oh man, it's so. I cannot wait for the sequel for this, because it's just. People ask, what is John Wick about? I'm like, well, I don't want to spoil it, but something happens to something he loves, and for the rest of the movie, people keep going, hey, what did you do that for? Well, John Wick's coming. Oh God, John Wick's coming. That's the whole freaking movie. It's mythos. It's like, this guy he's the boogeyman. I told him I gave him. He killed like 3 men in a bar with a pencil. I gave him a job that we thought was gonna kill him, and he did it. That's the whole film, and it's so awesome. It kind of like reminds me of like Payback, kind of, the Mel Gibson Payback movie. It's very, very stylish and cool, and I cannot wait for the sequel for this.
Yeah, I'm gonna just not comment on that.
You don't need to comment. You don't need to comment. You know it's true.
I do know it's true, and I'll do that later on. All right. Yeah, great pick, and I'll explain why later. My number 5, excuse me. This probably is the most pick that I'm most likely to get chastised for not being an action film. But there's 3 guys that are badasses, and there's killing involved.
Oh,
and no, and see, I like to hear the words action adventure and then just translate that into crime film, and just go with it. So my number 5 is 2012's film Lawless with
Tom Hardy.
Do you realize you have 2 Shia LaBeouf movies on your list?
Shia LaBeouf movie.
I was going to ignore that part and just say Tom Hardy, Gary Oldman.
I got Steinfeld in my left ear. I got Shia LaBeouf in my right ear.
Haley Steinfeld and Shia LaBeouf. You put them together, you have action gold. But I again, another just excuse for me to talk about a film that I wasn't going to get to talk about in any of our other genre lists. We didn't do crime. We didn't do that type of thing. So Lawless, I did not see this right away, but when I saw it, I loved it. It was enjoyable. I'm not saying it's like a masterpiece or anything, but it's a whole bunch of fun, and it's a whole bunch of badassness. And just another example of Tom Hardy being Tom Hardy. So
he doesn't speak.
I like the film.
I think Jason Clarke might be the unsung hero of that movie. He's freaking awesome in that movie.
Yeah, he's good as well.
Dane DeHaan is in there somewhere for a little bit. And
we haven't mentioned Jessica Chastain yet.
The amazing Jessica Chastain.
Isakowska.
Oh, that's who that was? The Alice in Wonderland lady, right? Yeah. So, it's Tom Hardy, man.
Dane DeHaan was in that.
Tom Hardy's awesome. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just put Tom Hardy in a film and you can talk about it in any genre list. It doesn't matter.
Is Lock your number 1 action movie?
No.
Tom Hardy's in a car driving 2 hours.
He opens a binder.
It's like what they tried to do with Liam Neeson for a while. It's like, let's put him on a plane. Let's put
Tom Hardy's at a daycare center.
Kindergarten Cop 2.
Oh man. So yeah, I'm cheating. I'm putting Lawless at number 5. Dan, give me something.
Yeah, this
more
is, I think, definitely fits more of the action vibe. I had Fast and the Furious. I guess I'll be the dude who's being pandering and going with some of the franchises, but there's no one in the world who can run on screen like Tom Cruise, and he does so brilliantly in Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. It's action set pieces galore in this. Brad Bird really bringing new life to this franchise, though I thought Mission Impossible 3 was good as well, but I thought this edited up to a new level, especially with obviously the Dubai sequence is, I would say, if not the best, second best action sequences in this franchise, and the fact that it was done practically in real life. It's, it will give you vertigo if you do not have it beforehand. But even more than that, I love the little kind of twists they had on the genre. I love the sequence in the Kremlin with the camera and the cool visual gags that were there, and in all the little side jokes they had too within it, like how they kind of poked fun of just the tropes you see with the Mission Impossible franchise. So I think it all came together with this, and Brad Bird really kind of showed that he can be a legit director with live action. So I was a little worried when he left the franchise, but ended up still doing okay. But I still think, he showed that he can just bring a little bit extra and make something a little bit special with Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Well, you thought that Amanda made a mistake, with her number 5 pick, but apparently, Dan, she totally redeems herself with her number 4 pick, because it's Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
There you go. Maybe she wanted to put that twice, but she...
So yeah, she agrees with you. I would say that that's my favorite film in the franchise. So I have no problem. It's not going to make my list because I'm not a big fan of the franchise in general, but I think it's the best of the bunch, and it definitely deserves to be in the discussion when we're talking about action films. So I'm glad you brought it up. So all agreement so far. DJ, what do you think about that?
I'm going to plead the fifth on this one. My lawyer's. I'm right. Looking at my lawyer now. He's handing me a paper. I cannot talk about Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol as of yet. I will talk about it a little bit later.
Okay. Sounds good. So if we already skipped past Amanda's number 4, since she's the same as Dan's number 5, DJ, you do get to talk about something, and that would be whatever is coming in.
Okay, my lawyer's handing me a paper here. I'm reading it. Okay. The movie with many names, whether it be All You Need Is Kill, Live, Die, Repeat. I'm going with Edge of Tomorrow. Truly imaginative action adventure film. For perhaps the first time, we get to see Tom Cruise play a coward who gradually turns into this heroic badass. It's adapted from a manga from my favorite writer, Chris McCory, so I mean, I'm already it's favoritism coming out the gate. It co-stars Emily Blunt, who is not bad in the eyes, who shines in her role as the Full Metal bitch, Rita Vitowski, a character that I totally buy, who has my one, if not my most favorite moments in this film. I don't want to spoil it, but it has to do with a helicopter. She is in my top 5 best female action heroines of all time. It's not only a great action adventure film, it is the best unintentional video game movie put to screen so far, Edge of Tomorrow.
My lawyers, just like you had yours informing you. No, but they slid me a different paper, and that was when I was creating my list. They said I could not use this since I had already spent my Edge of Tomorrow card on our science fiction list. Otherwise, it would be here because I thoroughly enjoyed that film about, let's say, 100 times more than I expected to.
Because it was marketed like an idiot.
Yeah.
Marketed that movie.
Not only before it was released, but then continued to be marketed like an idiot even
that
after.
That scene with the helicopter is the personification of the original title of this movie, which is All You Need Is Kill, because it's a play on the song All You Need Is Love. And that moment with the helicopter is Rita Vitowski telling Tom Cruise, you don't need love, you need to kill, you need to stay on mission. That's why I love that moment. And right after that moment, Tom Cruise stays on mission, goes to killing, and gets more fit. It's that there's stuff in that movie, and people crap on time travel. But for you to crap on time travel is like, a straw man argument. Time travel doesn't exist. Okay, first off, there's plot holes in all types of time travel. So if you're going at Edge of Tomorrow because of, why did they do this with the thing? And you're digging in the wrong place. Enjoy it for what it is, which is fun. It's a fun action film. It's Groundhog's Day with guns. What do you want from me?
And enjoy the idea that they showed you the same, whatever you want to, I don't know how long a time period that was, but it's like the same couple hours 700 times, and yet found a way to do it and make it entertaining at the same time, that you weren't tired of going through that same sequence by the time it was over. So, yeah, that's a great pick. anytime we get a chance to talk about Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat, or whatever else we want to call it, I think it's a good thing. So full support of that pick. That means it's my turn, I guess. So we've talked about my I went war action. We've seen Western action, I guess. We've seen crime action. We haven't really had an action comedy, and that's where I'm going for my number 4. I did not list it on my comedy list intentionally because I thought the action just slightly outweighed the percentages like Dan was talking about. So my number 4 is from 2013, and we also haven't talked about Denzel Washington or Mark Wahlberg yet, and that would be Two Guns.
I've not seen it.
From 2000. Is that a good laugh or bad laugh?
I think I haven't seen it, so I didn't see that come. I forgot all about that movie. I think that's based on a comic book as well.
Yeah.
Yes, it's based on a comic book of the same name. So hey, for once I get to say a name of a film that somebody hasn't seen and suggest that you watch it. This film is just a whole lot of fun. The whole dynamic between Denzel and Mark Wahlberg worked perfectly for me. I think this is another example of a film I probably like more than a lot of other people do. But man, this is a perfect blend for me of the comedy, of the action, and it just works. You even got Bill Paxton in here doing his thing. So, Dan, you've seen this. Am I way off putting this on the list?
I would say you said you liked that. You definitely like it a lot more than I did. I thought it was fine. It was just, I don't know. It was just passable, I guess. I don't know the word to say. It did not captivate me nearly as much as you, I think. I don't think it's a bad movie per se, but I don't disagree. It's fun, and the Denzel and Mark Wahlberg do have good chemistry, but I just remember just thinking it was just like, yeah, that happened, and then I don't remember anything else.
I think you're more like the rest of the world. Definitely, I'm probably in the minority. It has a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, but as far as trying to find an action comedy, I think this was like at the top of my list for this time period. I'm not saying there's not other ones outside of this time period that are much better, but if we're just looking at this 5 years, it stood out to me, and I don't know, I just enjoyed it. I had fun, turn off the brain, just have some entertainment, and
I'd rather this Mark Wahlberg action movie than the other Mark Wahlberg action movie. Exactly.
There is no other. Okay. Dan, what is
my number 4? Might be a cheat because technically it's original. It came out in the U.S. in 2010, but some may say it's a little earlier than that, and it's also a Western too. I'd say it's a Western kind of in the vein of that of maybe like Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's actually the movie I gave you for homework last week, Kevin, and that is The Good, the Bad, the Weird. And it's
I haven't seen yet, by the way, so don't.
So hopefully I'm not setting up expectations too high, but it's it's a take on the classic, obviously The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but a lot more high adrenaline. It's not necessarily, I would say, as on the level at all of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but it's super entertaining, some really creative action set pieces, and it's also just really thrilling, a lot of fun, some really good comedy there. So I really enjoyed this movie, and some just really colorful, unique characters all over the place, and it was one of those two that I heard a little bit about, and then I ended up watching it, and I was enthralled. And if you're for those people who are maybe apprehensive to foreign films or watching subtitle films, it's usually one of the first ones I go to because it is it's obviously an action film, so there's not much to follow plot wise, but it's just kind of shows you just the high quality you can get in South Korea, because they have some amazing movies, and I think this is one of the best. So.
All right, and clearly I haven't seen it. I was supposed to see it for this week, but since we're not doing a regular episode until next week, I had a little more time, so I should have watched it in prepreparation for the list, but I'm a failure. DJ,
I have not, but I am a Western snob, so, and especially when it comes to The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, that's almost like hallowed ground. So if I'm a Good, the Bad, the Ugly snob, will I be offended by watching this? Because now you piqued my interest, because I'm thinking, okay, maybe because I saw that Ken Watanabe version of Unforgiven, I really like that. So is this gonna?
It certainly takes homage from that. There are certain scenes that it definitely come from it, but I think it's more so just the concept of having three characters. So I wouldn't go into it thinking, okay, this is going to be like a different adaptation. It is to like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, like the Magnificent Seven Samurai. So it's very different. It's not trying to kind of do the same thing, but it's in the same vein, I would say. I think it's a loving homage, but not necessarily trying to be the same tone at all. It's like I said, it's more the tone of like a Pirates of the Caribbean, just kind of like more adventure-y, good time type of film. So
cool. All right. Well, both of us will have to get back to you on our opinions of that film, but definitely, I'm definitely like DJ said, my interest is peaked. So you haven't set it up too high. It's only your number, what, 4?
Yeah, number 4.
Number 3.
Lower it.
It could have been your number 1, you know. All right, let's swing it back around then to Amanda. You know, I thought we'd get a lot more martial arts films so far, and we've only, had 1?
Wait for it.
All right. She has one at her number 3, and that is the 2013 Chinese-American martial arts film as stated on Wikipedia, and that's always right. Starring Keanu Reeves, of course. This would be Man of Tai Chi. At her number
Keanu
3.
Reeves' first directorial film. I actually like that movie. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if I didn't make my list, but I do think it has some really well-crafted fight sequences.
Yeah, the fight scenes in that movie are awesome. I think he was wrong as the villain.
Yeah.
It's funny because, again, I love Keanu Reeves as John Wick, but I do not love him as his character. I mean, I love him as Constantine. I love him, in certain things. Johnny Utah. This was not right. They should have got somebody who could, I don't know.
Haley Steinfeld.
Get Shia LaBeouf in there, and then we're talking.
Yeah. He just doesn't like come off as vicious. Like he doesn't have that like. No. You don't feel him. He's threatening when he's a good guy, but as a villain, it doesn't come off as. It kind
of comes off as comedic.
Yeah,
like I'm like laughing at parts where I'm not supposed to be laughing. But she is right. The action in that movie when they're actually fighting, and the guy from a guy from one of a film that might be on my list is in that movie as a cameo, which I thought was really cool. But the action in that movie is awesome.
So she's redeemed herself after a bump in the middle of
alcoholism. Folks, you can do it too.
And Man of Tai Chi, she's on the comeback. So, all right, DJ, what's your number 3?
I'm getting a paper from my lawyer. I can talk about it now? Okay, yes, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Of all the Mission Impossible films, this is the one that I think is the best action adventure of them all. I'm not counting the second one because the second one's bad. It is not my favorite Mission Impossible film. I think the fifth one that just came out I think it's the most overall great Mission Impossible film because it has all the espionage and the action and the comedy all together. But this one is just action set piece, action set piece, action set piece. So it follows the genre well. Brad Bird can do inventive action set pieces in literally sleep. I mean, Tomorrowland, for as it was, when it gets to the action set pieces, it's almost like you can just feel like Brad Bird like yawning. Okay, do this thing over there because he's like it comes to him so naturally. I'm so angry they didn't get him for the Spider-Man director, but here it's just a great the Dubai sequence what Dan was talking about. It's awesome. You have to watch that, especially if you saw it in IMAX. Holy crap! It is like get Dramamine before walking into that theater. You will throw up on yourself. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know Tom Cruise is more than likely a crazy cult leader, but he makes amends for it by putting his life at risk in every single film he makes for us. So I'll let it go that he might, be from the planet Zardon. I don't care about that. Just please hang up for the side of a plane and climb on a building and drown yourself. Keep doing that. I'm fine because he's sacrificing he's giving us crazy, but he's trying to apologize with these films. And I love Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
All right. I don't think you're finding anybody that's disagreeing with you in this panel. I've made 3 out of the 4 lists, so definitely we're in unison on that. My number 3, I talked about the fact that, for the record, this is the last time I'm going to fudge the genre a little bit, but way back when Amanda gave out True Grit at number 9, I said that I would have a somewhat of a Western eventually on my list, and my explanation here is that I saw this number 1 on half a dozen different action lists that I was doing in my research, and damn it, it's bounty hunters. It's action in a way. So I'm completely cheating for my number 3, and I'm going with the 2012 American Western film from Quentin Tarantino himself, Django Unchained. You guys can say it doesn't count, but damn it, I needed another one, and there's nowhere else for me to talk about
time. I'll give you that.
There's nowhere else for me to talk about Westerns. We're not doing a Western list, so Django Unchained's my number 3. There's bounty hunters, and there's killing, and there's action.
Damn it.
Jesus, very indignant today.
So you guys won't have it on your list because you don't consider it action, but you'll agree that it's a good film.
Great film. I love that film.
All right, and we'll talk more about that in our next Tarantino episode, so I'm not going to go into it in detail at all.
Just know that Leonardo DiCaprio was robbed in that. He was awesome in that movie.
And, I mean, that's a pretty heavy little action sequence there at the end there. So.
When Quentin does this, first of all, Quentin's a genius, but when he goes balls to the wall action, you get balls to the wall action. And that movie might have one of the greatest endings of all time. Its ending is the most cathartic thing I've ever seen. It's just pure catharsis, that ending, so yeah.
All right, so my cheating's done. I won't cheat anymore, I promise. Dan, what do you have?
You talked about not having many martial arts films. Well, I guess we're going to at least have 2 here, because this is definitely a martial arts film, and you, not JD, wow.
Oh, it happened once.
I apologize. It's been late. It's late. I have little sleep.
We should have some type of running thing for like the world of our podcast community that anytime someone does that, they have to like.
I need to steal this guy's identity. He's so popular. I might have to go off Jake.
But you had Dredd on your list, and this got a lot of comparisons to Dredd because it has a similar plot line, and that, of course, is the Raid Redemption, and it's your simple, hey, we need to go up this building and do so with a lot of amazing action set pieces. And Gareth Edwards, like his mind when it comes to creating fights, and Evans, sorry.
Don't worry, I get them mixed up all the time.
Yeah.
Edwards Godzilla, Evans the Raid.
Yeah. His mind when it comes to crafting action sequences is fantastic. I thought about putting the Raid 2 as well on my top 10, but I just went with this one. I think both are deserving for sure. It's just, yes, it's short on plot, but I think that's perfectly okay because it knows what it is, and it's balls to the wall, really fun action from a variety from your gunfights to the beginning to the fact it just gets hand-to-hand brutal. And it's a movie I think probably could not be made in the U.S. because I'm sure they had no safety standards whatsoever with some of the sequences that happened. But it's just, I love seeing eventful and kind of creative and just people who are trying to take the action genre in new directions and take something and do something that's never been done before and take risks, and that happened with Raid Redemption. So I love it. It's a great time. So.
All right, I think that a lot of people will be happy to hear that franchise be named because it is on every action list I think I've seen. That in doing all my research, it's definitely very, very much praised and held in high regards in the genre. So great that's getting a mention. That means that we're going back to our number 2 at the top of the rotation, which is Amanda, and she's going to talk about a film that is. She's not going to talk about it, but she's going to list a film that's already been talked about on my list at number 6, and her number 2 is also Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows. So apparently she is a bigger fan of it than even myself. So she has it all the way up at number 2, but she likes Jai Courtney, yeah, but that's not even close to the same universe as how much she likes RDJ.
Okay. I might like him more than she does.
She is a huge RDJ fan, and this is him in his element. So Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadow is her number 2. I won't talk about it because I already did. But that is that. That means DJ, you only got 2 left. What's the first one going to be?
This was hard, and Dan has hit a lot of points. I left off the first Raid off this list because Dredd essentially is the same film, like you're saying, with a bit more of a character because you got Carl Urban. But the Raid 2 follows right after the Raid and does everything that the first Raid does, but to me, better. So I think I'm covered. It was arguably some of the greatest action set pieces ever filmed. arguably one of the best car chase scenes ever shot, and unarguably, the best one-on-one fight scene ever. I don't give a damn. You can bring me your They Live fight. You can bring me your Enter the Dragon Game of Death. Bring anything. If this was poker, you can flip them cards over. I'm all in on the kitchen fight scene in the Raid 2. It is one of the best choreographed, brutal, longest, to-the-death fights you will ever see on celluloid. If you haven't seen it, you must. It will. I was literally, like, watching this film out of breath. Like right before the kitchen fight scene, the scene that's the greatest one-on-one fight I've ever seen shot before. Before that, like 5 seconds before that, was a 1-on-2 fight in a hallway with a woman with a bat and a guy with a hammer. I got the weapons mixed up. The movie is freaking insane. The director, Gareth Evans, nearly died making the movie. The car chase scene, the car almost ran him over. The movie is nuts. And they kind of take this Infernal Affairs kind of storyline with, so it's a little bit more plot, but it's okay. If you like, I've seen this before, the story is cliche, it's fine. Just wait for 5 seconds, and then you'll see him fight 500 guys in a sushi restaurant with meat cleavers. or like I remember, like Matt was telling me, he's like, you need to watch the Raid 2. I'm like, yeah, I watched the Raid. I don't really watch it. Dude, just watch it. I started watching it, and it was the prison fight, and I'm like, texting him like, why haven't I watched this movie sooner? He goes, just wait. You haven't seen anything yet. It is amazing. The Raid 2 is so worth your time. Please watch it. And the fact that you said that statement, Dan, about that you cannot make this movie in America. They sadly are trying to make it in America with Frank Grillo, apparently. Don't. Unless Gareth Evans is directing it, don't. Because it's not, one, going to even come close to this if you're not going to do the things. These guys should all be dead. Some of the stunts in this movie.
Some of them might be. We don't really know.
I don't understand how people are dead from this. A guy gets hit by a car, like, on camera. So I don't understand how these people aren't dead. But yes, Raid 2 Berendel, I forget the international name for it. Just look up Raid 2. It is worth your time. The best time you'll have watching a karate flick, maybe ever.
So high praise for the Raid from both Dan and DJ, and obviously warranted by all the action fans out there listening. And for my number two and one aren't even going to be interesting. They've all been talked about already before, so I'll kind of downplay it already. But my number two, I had it much higher than you did, DJ, and it can't be an action list without more talk about James Bond. So my number two is going to be Skyfall. I mean, I haven't seen all of the old ones. I've only seen probably the last 6 or 7 Bond films, and it's my favorite out of the ones I've seen. I think it's just magnificent on so many different levels. We kind of talked about earlier on when we were talking about one of the other films. It's not just an action film that has good action pieces, but it's like they took the time to care. The cinematography, the filming of it, the camera work, the sound, everything worked, and they took the time to do it right, and it paid off. So I love Skyfall, and that is my number 2 action film of the last 5 years. Dan, what's your number 2?
My number 2, again, some people might call me out, but I do feel like this fits in the adventure category. And I guess I kind of had a movie that was very similar to this with All Is Lost, the Lost at Sea type of story. But this one is much different, and it was based on a book that was supposed to be unfilmable, but I thought it definitely deserves it, and some really great adventure going on here, and that, of course, is Life of Pi. Some might question if it belongs, but I do feel like it does count as an adventure film for sure. And again, I went into this thinking, the trailers were interesting, okay, but I don't know. The movie just really got to me on multiple levels, what it had to say, and I do think some of its adventure sequences are phenomenal. It's just the look of this movie is just, when people like complain about CGI and say CGI is ruining movies, I go to Life of Pi and saying, look what it can do though if it's done right, and it's amazing.
This is one of the most appealing visual films of the last 5 years, for sure.
It's so creative, and it's picturesque in so many different ways. I mean, even looking at the animals and stuff like that, and the story itself is so layered with what's going on, and also talking about endings. I just loved just what it did, and it obviously has a lot to do with religion and things like that too. But at the heart of it, I think it's still an adventure film about a guy just trying to survive at sea. So.
You're watching a film that is undoubtedly done in CGI with and trying to convince yourself, like, you're like, I know this is CGI. Why does it look so real? Like, why does it look so believable? Why is this not bothering me? Like, is that a real or is that a CGI? Whatever it is that you're looking at. So, but I can see where you're coming from the adventure standpoint, and I didn't think about this. It just was completely off the radar for me. But maybe if I had, because I love this film too, I think this is a great pick, and I definitely think it fits the adventure film. What do you think, DJ?
We figured out that Dan loves boats.
Funny thing is, I actually asked DJ before this. I'm like, does Captain Phillips count? And I'm like, hey,
I was like, you really love boats. I'm like, Captain Phillips, Life of Pi, All is Lost.
He just misheard what we said we were doing today.
Top 10 boat film. Boat trip. Overboard. No, I think Life of Pi is a visual. It's visually amazing, and it's a sad thing. I always remember every time I think of Life of Pi, I'm like, oh man, isn't this the movie where like the people who made the effects, the company went out of business, like right after they won? It's crazy. Like, why? That tiger is one of the most best photorealistic anythings that I've seen, other than like maybe Caesar. Watch how they made that movie. Like, go to get the DVD, pop on the making of how they did the scenes in that boat with that tiger. You'll be amazed which shots are real and which shots are fake. Because there's a lot of scenes of that movie I'm like, okay, that's the real tiger, that's the fake tiger. You'll be amazed which ones were fake and real. It's awesome. And when it comes to harrowing adventure and the whale scene and all that stuff, it's great. Again, it's another castaway on a boat, but
also another good example of how to use 3D, because I do feel like
definitely
that movie does get enhanced through the use of 3D. Just the way Ang Lee would frame shots, and how you actually had stuff coming outside of the aspect ratio of what was going on. And I thought like that actually added another layer to it. Like, I felt like you couldn't really fully experience that unless you saw it in 3D, which is something I think Never Say maybe did like 2 other movies. So.
And it didn't have the benefit of, I mean, I think this guy, what's his name, Suraj Sharma? He's not, I mean, was he acting before? He might have done
That was his first role, I believe.
And he killed it. So, yeah, great acting performances, and it's harrowing as hell, so.
All right, great pick. We're going to skip past Amanda's number 1, because just like with her number 7, it's the same as mine. So I don't know how we did that. We don't usually see eye to eye when it comes to films, but we have the same number 1, so I'm going to save it for a second and let DJ give his number 1 first. So DJ, the best action-adventure film of the last 5 years is?
You guys have been fudging genres, and Dan's been doing stuff with boats. I decided to fudge years, so I'm going to go with, what a day! What a lovely day! I have to go with Mad Max Fury Road, because as Dan so eloquently put it, Mad Max cannot be confined by rules or decades. It's a literal personification of action-adventure. This film, by its own admission, is one long action sequence. That's all.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
And what you're doing here basically is you're saying, I don't need to sit on this. No. I don't need to let it resonate. I already know, I'm confident that when we do the action list in 5 years of the best of the decade, this is going to be on.
Yes, unless George Miller's sequel to this is way crazier, I don't see a movie knocking this off my list, man. This film by its own, it's amazing. The visuals, stunning. The set pieces, dangerous. Like, talk about the Raid 2 before. I'm pretty sure people are dead here because they were in the desert. They can get rid of the bodies easily. Inventively insane things are put to film. It's just awesome. And it's my favorite kick-ass heroine of all time. Sorry, Ripley. Furiosa, holy... I might have moved a curse.
Yeah.
I mean, it's practically Charlize Theron's film, and she carries it with ease. It's not just an action film. It's an action experience. Watch this on a big... If you didn't see this in the theater, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for you. Because even it's still great on a big screen, but man...
It's probably
go watch it in a theater with people. It is like, you're going to be like holding people. Like, oh my God, I don't believe it. What was that? Who's that? There's a guy on a stick. There's a fireball. I don't believe it. It's crazy. It's insane. So, yeah.
And the other reason why it's okay for you to put this movie on the list is, like you said, Mad Max doesn't follow rules when it comes to years, because I vividly remember in the end of 2014, people were already putting this film on lists of best of 2014 just
yes,
based
the trailer,
on the trailer.
which I was always saying, like, Wolf of Wall Street's trailer was like my coffee. Like, the trailer was so well, it always got me amped. This is like cocaine. The trailer for Mad Max Fury Road, any one of them, I think there's 3 of them, they're all like, well, after watching it, it's like, what the I gotta go do something, I gotta love it, run! It's amazing. Right. So again, I don't know if a film in the next 10 years or 5 years is gonna best this unless it's a sequel to this. And again, George Miller has been trying to make this movie for 30 freaking years. So I'm gonna give him a little bit of the doubt. And so yeah, Mad Max Fury Road, amazing. He was going to do Justice League, and they kicked him off. So he said, all right, screw it, I'll do this.
I'll show you guys. All right, great pick for number 1. We don't care if it's not technically in 2014. The trailer came out in 2014, and people were listing it then. So you
mediocre.
And it's already kind of trying to lock down a spot for the overall 10-year period. So great pick. For my number 1, like I said, it's the same as Amanda's number 1, and it's already been talked about. Talk about something that caught us off guard and that nobody probably thought was going to be as effective as it was. DJ, we're in agreement with the film you talked about earlier. We both have the 2014 film as our number 1, and that would be Keanu in John Wick. So the world they created for this, it was just amazing. The character of John Wick and just how much the name scared the shit out of people. We're talking about people that have like their family members being killed or being threatened, and they're just like
the greatest scene, I think, one of the greatest scenes of the movie, that it's not an action scene, it's like the John Leguizamo conversation with the Russian mafia. Like, you hit my son? Do you know what you're doing? He stole John Wick's car. He's like, oh, click. Oh. That's all. That tells you everything you need to know about John Wick, how awesome he is.
And we didn't mention it before, so I'll throw his name out there too. Ian McShane.
And Willem Dafoe. There's a lot of great actors in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a fun film from beginning to end. They did something that the standard action film fails at many times, and that is not just creating the epic character that can be done sometimes, but just the world around it and just everything about it. You know, I mean, we're talking about having a freaking hotel that all these people can go, and then it's just kind of like we're okay. We don't have to worry about people killing us. And I don't know, everything about this film was fascinating and fun to watch. And I don't know how many people expected this film to be liked to the level it was and to be received like it was when the previews or when the idea that, hey, there's going to be a film, John Wick, it's going to be an action thriller starring Keanu Reeves.
And the first trailer for it came out like 2 weeks before it came to theaters.
Right, so all it was like people hearing about it, but it wasn't seeing anything, and it's just like, okay, that's probably going to be a dud, or, whatever, and then it hit people like with a left hook.
Great trailer, again, another great trailer, by the way, because that has that line that I said. It was everybody keeps asking me if I'm back. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. I was like, okay, I got to watch this movie. I don't know what it's about. I don't care. He said the line that was really cool. I had to watch it, and it was awesome.
Yeah, so that's both Amanda and my number 1 action film of the last 5 years, which means we only have time for one more. Dan,
my number 1 is also one that's also been talked about, and I by both of you, and that of course is Skyfall. And
Skyfall.
Exactly. I was a mild James Bond fan, but actually the year this came out, since it was like the anniversary, I kind of went back and watched all the Bond films, and going to Skyfall and coming out, I'm like, wow, that's one of the best. And if you're one of the best of a franchise that's been around since the 60s, and I do like Casino Royale a little bit more, but still, like, Skyfall is, Daniel Craig doing a Bond film in the vein of classic Bond films and doing it really well. It was a loving homage to classic Bond films in a lot of different ways, and it's just, like you mentioned, DJ, with Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins coming in, it just took it to an entirely new level of filmmaking that I think the Bond franchise maybe never had before. It looks phenomenal. Like, I cannot get enough of just looking at some of these sequences, from the casino with to the fiery red of the fire, the amber red of the ending, to one of my favorite fight sequences of the last whatever, which is a silhouette fight sequence.
Oh yeah,
which is just
Shanghai.
Exactly, brilliant, and the fight itself isn't it's nothing phenomenal, but just the look of it, it's just it's so great, and the characters, the actors, Javier Bardem is a top 3 Bond film. He's just villain. He's just so charismatic, and his give and take with that of Daniel Craig is phenomenal. Yeah, I, like you said, there are some detractors. People made some issues with it, and it does borrow some from Dark Knight, but Dark Knight itself borrowed a lot from the Bond franchise itself. So I don't know. To me, it elevated the entire James Bond to something new, and I love it. And it got me so excited that Spectre is the movie I'm looking forward to the most this year because of Skyfall. So it is the perfect Bond film in my eyes. It has everything that you need in a good Bond film, except for maybe a strong Bond girl, though. I
love Sabrine, though, man. So for the limited amount of time she had, she was good. That whole casino conversation with she's like the dragon. She's like smoking the cigarette and she's shaking. For as limited amount of time she had, you're correct. She's not Vesper. She's not Vesper, but no. she's all right.
but some could ask, that maybe that the real the Bond girl in this, because you have the reveal of obviously who Penny is, but I think the real, I can't think of her name in the top of my head.
Naomi Harris.
Not Naomi Harris, but Judi Dench was really the real Bond girl of this film because she took such a big role in this. But I don't know, I just loved everything about it, and from the opening sequence to the train sequence to the final Home Alone battle sequence at the end, whatever you want to call it. It's just, I don't know, it's amazing. When we're making this list, I had no doubt in my mind this would be my number one.
I can have I've done podcasts all about Javier Bardem as. This guy Silva, he is so, that shot from the elevator to one take of him walking up to Bond, it's so good. That's when you know you're with a great filmmaker, when you see like a scene like that, like, oh man, this guy knows what the hell he's doing, and you got great talent around him. And that's just him walking.
Yeah.
Talking about, my mother had an island. It's just so awesome. Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, before we give any of our honorable mentions, we'll real quick review our list in the whole so you can get it all in one foul swoop. We'll also put all of our lists up on the website and let you guys pick which list represents action films in the last 5 years the best. For Amanda's list, it goes 3 Days to Kill, True Grit, Kick-Ass, 1 we're going with, Fury, 300 Rise of an Empire. At number 5, I believe, was Die Hard.
Die Hard. It was Die Hard. Don't worry about it. Just keep going.
Number 4, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Number 3, Man of Tai Chi. Number 2, Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows. And number 1, John Wick. DJ, what was your 10?
My 10 was Inception. It was Predators. It was Skyfall. Then it went to Captain America: The Winter Soldier. At number 7, Dread. John Wick, Edge of Tomorrow, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, The Raid 2, and what a day! What a lovely day! Mad Max Fury Road.
All right, and my 10 was Salt, followed by The Grey with End of Watch, Fury, Sherlock Holmes, The Game of Shadows, Lawless, Two Guns, Django Unchained, Skyfall, and John Wick.
For number 10, I had Hannah. Number 9, The Grey. Then Fast 5, All Is Lost. 13 Assassins, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, The Good, The Bad, The Weird, The Raid Redemption, Life of Pi, and finally, Skyfall.
DJ, any films that just missed your list that you were really on the fence about? I
had a hard time picking. What year was MI3? Was that before 2010?
No, it was 2012, 2013 maybe.
Because I really want to pick MI3 because I think that still has they have the Silva, and that's Philip Seymour Hoffman as that character, and you have a wife or a girlfriend? That whole
MI3. I'm thinking Men in Black 3. Jesus, sorry.
Oh God,
that's before.
no, wrong. Maybe I'm in my head.
That was before 2010. Yeah.
Okay, then I probably want to mention Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which is another unintentionally great video game movie. Though it's a comic book film, I love that film. What the hell was the other one? You guys mentioned Raid 1. I was trying not to put Raid 1 on here because I didn't want to have Raid 1, then Raid 2. But Raid 1, Dan is correct. It is freaking awesome. And for some reason, I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack about this, I like Battle Los Angeles a little bit. Maybe it's a guilty pleasure.
Amanda was going to list that, but she disqualified it on the science fiction.
Yeah. I mean, and people crap on that movie by the buckets, but for some reason, I don't know. Something about that movie that I liked. Maybe because I was very drunk when I watched it, but yeah, it was great.
I considered, like I said, Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. I slightly considered putting a Fast and Furious movie or one of the Red movies on there, just to get a mention. I had The Town, but I figured that also didn't qualify, and I already had enough of those that didn't qualify. The same can probably be said for Gangster Squad or Killing Them Softly. What else did I have here? I had Olympus Has Fallen, got a slight second from me.
But in White House Down, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And I also briefly thought about The Equalizer. Dan, anything else on your list that didn't quite make
I almost went with the Grandmaster, Arkard Wise film. It has two of my favorite, some great, it looks great because it's a Arkard Wise movie, but great fight sequences, but it's more drama heavy, and it's also kind of choppy because the American edit is pretty kind of sacrilegious what it does to the film. Like I mentioned, Captain Phillips, I thought about it, but I ended up not going with it. Some other ones that came to mind, Haywire. I do like that movie. I didn't think it deserved quite the top 10. Some well-directed fight sequences, and I think Steven Soderbergh made Gina Carano look somewhat competent as an actor, which is...
Well, he did dub her, didn't he? Didn't he put somebody else's voice on it?
Yeah, that might have helped a little bit. Some other ones, the Raid 2 I thought about too, but since I had the Raid already. Also, Sleepless Night, which is kind of almost a French version of Die Hard in a way. And I also thought about Dread and Olympus Has Fallen too. It's a guilty pleasure for me. I like that movie. I see its faults, but I don't know. I think it was a good time. So similar to Battle Los Angeles, it's got its issues, but I think it has its merit as well.
All right. Well, before we get into kind of just a general discussion like we normally do on the genre itself, just real quick kind of forecasting. I mean, obviously DJ's already put his vote in for Mad Max, but anything that you've seen this year or that that's coming out here in the next year or two that you think is going to make a bid to be on the list if we did it again once the decade's complete, DJ?
I know.
I'm thinking
Spectre definitely. I mean, if you're going to start cheating, Batman v Superman might be up there. Suicide Squad, I think, is going to be freaking nuts. I know that's kind of comic book, but I think the way David Ayer is going to shoot that's going to be like a dark action film. So I think he's shooting it like how he shot Fury a little bit. So, oh man, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out, man. Especially in the comic book genre, we're going to get some ones that are going to bleed out. Because what Marvel has been doing is like, we have a comic book film, but we're not going to make it a comic book film. We're going to make it like Captain America is like a spy action thriller, and then we're going to make Doctor Strange a horror film, So I think we're going to have a couple of those, like maybe Black Panther might be on there. But yeah, I'm...
What do you think? Do you think anything else that you've already seen this year? Does something like
Kingsman
have a chance?
I was thinking about Kingsman. That was I think it's the third act of that movie that's really like super actiony.
Right.
I guess I didn't really like Jurassic World that much, or Terminator Genesis, whatever the hell that's called. But yeah, I think Star Wars is going to be on that list. Oh, Revenant. Revenant might be. It seems like it's going to be a drama, but I don't know. We've been putting All Is Lost on there, and this might be another one with Leonardo DiCaprio surviving a bear attack and Tom Hardy's running around there. I think Revenant might be on that list soon.
I'm just going to keep throwing Westerns on mine and add an outside shot for the Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight, see, the thing about Hateful Eight is it's all going to be in like one room. It's like 12 Angry Men. So you're right. You might be right. I might be wrong, but it seems like all of the movie is shot in that cabin. So, but you could be awesome.
Dan, What about you, Dan? Anything you've seen already this year, or that you have your eye on in the next couple of years that could make a move? For
possibly Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. I did enjoy that a great deal. Anything else that really comes to mind? Not particularly. Mad Max, obviously. Hoping for Spectre. Maybe there'll be another Fast Furious film. I'm sure. And next year maybe Deadpool. I mean that.
Deadpool! I forgot about Deadpool. You're right. I'm with him. Deadpool.
Yeah. So that.
And what about is Liam Neeson truly done with action?
Never.
Dan, I think you had a question as far as the action genre in general. We kind of like to close in a way and take a look at the genre at a more broad standpoint, not kind of pick out specific movies. So
I was kind of thinking with action, and there's this conversation's going on a lot right now, but it's CGI versus practical, and I think we're seeing people when they do use practical effects, it's being kind of put in the forefront, like with Mad Max. It was talked about a lot, even with Mission Impossible, with Tom Cruise really hanging off the airplane because he loves to do that. He loves hanging off things. So do you think we're going to see like a resurgence of practical effects because of like the positive reaction that those got, or do you think we're still going to have the CGI fest that we tend to get here and there?
I've always been a proponent of, I don't mind CGI when you're using it for accents, or if it's like Star Wars, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so and JJ said he was using more, practical effects, but like you guys were saying earlier, if you do it right, you take your time, CGI is a benefit. I don't think it's done horribly wrong or cheaply or rushed like, Terminator, Genesis, or whatever, you're going to get crap. But I think that you can still get away with some CGI and do it right. Like, for every time I see like a Mad Max, I'll see a Star Wars. For every time I see a John Wick, I might get like a Deadpool movie. And you can't do Deadpool practical all the way. You can't get, so which you can do some practical, but you get the expression in his eyes. That's CGI at work, making him giving personality to that mask. Just use it as accents. Blend it. Don't just CGI George Lucas heavy. I want it to be all green screen. Don't do that. Just make it melt. Chris Nolan has a lot of CGI in The Dark Knight. You don't even and George Miller for Mad Max Fury Road. But they hide it. They use it to accent stuff, to get around problems they could not do practically. They want to do stuff practically, but sometimes you use the CGI to make it great. And sometimes you get a CGI tiger out of the deal that's awesome. Or Caesar from Dawn of Planet of the Apes is another movie I forgot to list on that honorable mentions. You get a Caesar or a Cobra. That's CGI. That's amazing CGI. So yeah, I think we're still going to get people using more of it. We see using an equal balance of it now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on who's in control and who's paying the money. First of all. There's always going to be those cash grabs that are going to take the easy route and just throw a bunch of crappy CGI out there because they don't want to take the time and the effort and the money to do the practical effects. And like you said, for everything that we get that's taking the practical effects like maybe JJ is doing with Star Wars, I'm on a
that's your boy. That's your boy.
Yeah.
What are the J's
for every one of those, we're going to... don't. That's a family secret. But for every one of those, you're going to get Clash of the Titans and Wrath of the Titans. And, I mean, that's maybe more the 3D aspect of it. But, you're going to get crappy effects anytime somebody wants to save a buck and put something out there fast. But hopefully, like you're saying, some of these examples of practical effects and kind of the effects, no pun intended, the effects that has on the people watching it will hopefully pave the way for people to say, hey, people really enjoy this, and this is getting better reviews and better critiques on it. So maybe we'll do it more, but man, it's a tough thing when it comes down to the good old.
Don't be lazy with it. Don't be if you're lazy with it, it shows. Watch Agent 47, Hitman, whatever the hell that thing is called, and watch how lazy they are with that CGI. It is.
Well, in a perfect world, like you said, the CGI would only be used when it's physically impossible to do things in a different way, or completely cost ineffective to do it with practical effects. But man, if you can do it in practical effects, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's like looking at like The Hobbit compared to Lord of the Rings, when you're seeing like CGI orcs versus like real life orcs and what that can do. But
right.
I mean, I think there are CGI. I don't think it inherently is bad. I mean, like the Marvel films are full of it, and I personally don't mind it because I think at times you need it for it to work, or even something like Edge of Tomorrow, which, that CGI is there, but you don't even really tell because they've kind of blended both, and same thing with Mad Max. So
Gravity. We would not have Gravity without CGI. That's that movie's amazing looking. So yeah,
exactly. So I think.
Well, and like you even brought up with Life of Pi.
It is. It's just it's a combination of getting talented people and also giving them the money to do it. Because a lot of times, something looks bad simply because people aren't putting the money in for it to happen. They'll throw it other places, or so they'll just we'll make it look fake because we can, or they won't put much into it. I think we will get more films that do the blending. I think because you do see trends. Well, Hollywood loves to do its trends. Something is hot, they'll try to repeat it. But maybe what we'll end up seeing is people not doing it greatly, because it's not just the fact that something's practical; it's that it's practical and done well. So I think that's kind of people get kind of caught up with the format or what they're using. But at the end of the day, it's dependent upon the filmmaker and the time and effort that's behind it. So hopefully we get good action films in the future, like we've been talking about. Hopefully we'll get another great Mad Max movie or something like that. But I do like the fact that people are taking note of it, and we're not allowing just bad CGI to kind of go unnoticed. But I do think it kind of people dismiss CGI a little bit too much at times. There's that great video. It's like CGI is ruining movies, but it really isn't. And I would advise checking that out, because it does show you that there's a lot of CGI that's done that you don't see, because when it's done well, you don't notice it.
I was talking about Captain America: Winter Soldier. I forget her first name, but the Moneymaker chick that does all of Scarlett Johansson's stunts, especially in Age of Ultron, because she was super pregnant when they were doing that. They CGI Scarlett Johansson's face on her body. Yeah. So that's why all those stunts look so awesome. Hell, they did it in Jurassic Park when the girl falls through the ceiling, and they had to CGI her face because the stunt woman accidentally looked up. That's where CGI is great to have. So I don't want to say, I don't want any CGI. I don't want it all practical. Use it, take your time, use it properly.
When it makes sense.
Be creative with it. Don't just, it's easier to do digital blood. Let's do that. No. I'm always for blood squibs. I kind of shy away from digital blood, but there's things that CGI can do that are great. Again, I always go back to that scene in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes when that kid steps out of that tent and sees that orangutan sitting out there, and now you realize that orangutan ain't freaking there.
Yeah.
That is an amazing shot, and that's photorealism. You wouldn't have no Hulk without CGI. So yeah, CGI has its benefits.
Yeah. I definitely agree with what you guys are both saying. And Dan, I think you had an interesting second question too, kind of the last thing before we close this off. And I think it's an interesting one, and maybe it comes down to which ones you're talking about, but I'd like to frame it this way, and we'll go with you first, DJ. But our action franchises, take anyone you want, but are the main action franchises helping or hurting the action genre as a whole?
Oh, man. Our action franchise, so we're talking about Fast and the Furious.
Fast and the Furious, you got Mission Impossibles, you got maybe the Expendables, you got...
this is almost like the CGI argument, because for every Fast and the Furious, because I'm not a fan of that franchise, there is a Mission Impossible, which seems to be getting better as it's going along. So, but then you have a Die Hard, which is dead. And then you... it's just dead. But then you got Star Wars coming back, which is not really action. It's kind of sci-fi action. I don't know. I think we're kind of entering a world, for me anyway, where we're going back to the auteur theory, where I follow the directors. If Matthew Vaughn's doing an action film, I don't give a damn if it's a franchise, and then I'm watching it. If Christopher McQuarrie's directing a film, or some action director who's known for action is doing something, I'm following. Franchises are a good thing. I think if it's a good franchise, you don't want to have a movie that's like a Transformers movie that's going on forever. It's not really reinventing the wheel. It's just doing the same thing over and over again. Taken, holy crap. Taken, it's sad. The first Taken I really like, because it was kind of like a John Wick. It's just very gritty, grounded. And then a studio gets their hands in it, Fantastic Four, and they just turn it into something else that they
Let's hope the same doesn't happen with John
Wick.
Wick.
See, the thing about John Wick, I don't know. I think they're leaving them alone, because This is where studios will leave you alone with your franchise and your stuff. If you don't like Deadpool, this is why I'm not worried about Deadpool. Deadpool they made for $30 million. That's nothing. So they got to do whatever the hell they wanted. When you get into $100 million, when you get in Fast and the Furious range, and you got movie number 7, and your budget is like $180 million, that's when the studios will be like, okay, now I want Vin Diesel to have a scene where he drives a car because my daughter loves that car. That's what you're going to get when you have a huge budget. When you have a small budget like a John Wick, I don't think they're going to I think that's Warner Brothers. They're going to be like, yeah, well, do what you want. Make a hotel with Lance Reddick. I don't care. They won't care. But if you're talking about if big franchises like Fast and the Furious or whatever are hurting action films, no. I think we got 2 really amazing action movies this year. So no, I don't think so.
I don't think franchises themselves are hurting action films, but I think the attempt to create them does hurt them in the sense where people put the franchise ahead of the movie they're making first when they think, okay, and it's not just action, I think it's films in general, but one that comes to mind, even though it's part of a franchise, is like Terminator Genesis, and it's so evident that there was stuff in that film that was not answered, was planned to be answered later on, but then it's like, what happens if that movie never happens? So I think that does hurt movies where they're playing the long game and not focusing on the film that's at hand first, so that like that, because they just see dollar signs and like they want the next Fast and Furious, see Need for Speed, or don't see Need for Speed.
Don't ever see Need for Speed.
Well, I think you could see that too, like in the G.I. Joe franchise and a couple other things. It was like, let's create something that's, and we're only concerned about making this a 3, 4, 5 picture franchise deal that's going to make us money. We're not concerned that let's make the
It comes down to the creative team, because Amazing Spider-Man 2 did that same thing Dan is talking about, where they're like, we're going to set up the Sinister Six, and we're going to, but Aunt May is going to be a spy, and all that crap. But for as bad as that setup was, look how creative Marvel does their stuff with Guardians of the Galaxy, setting up the Avengers Age of Ultron, which sets up Ant-Man, which sets up Doctor Strange. They have a plan. When you have a plan, you have a good creative team, like a guy, like a figurehead like Kevin Feige, you're fine. X-Men has been off and on again. When they got Bryan Singer, or when they got Matthew Vaughn initially was what got that back on track, and then Bryan Singer came back and he's helming it. But then for that, then you got Fantastic Four, where the studio was like, whoa, we're going to do whatever the hell we want, and blah, blah. You have to have a great creative team, a good figurehead behind your stuff to make these franchise. If you're going to make you want to make a franchise, be very creative about it. Have a plan. Don't just say, I have a Spider-Man property, I'm going to make a Sinister Six movie and not know how the hell to do that. You're just going to just drop Easter eggs all over the place with no plan whatsoever. Because Amazing Spider-Man 2, they had no plan. They were just like, we got to keep this property, let's just do what the hell we want to do. And say Sinister Six in the background.
Yeah, I think you have people trying to play catch-up, and it's like, by doing that, you end up being behind, because then you forget, oh yeah, you need to set a foundation first and then do that. Right. So yeah,
that's what worried me about Batman v Superman. Still kind of a little bit worries me, because it seemed like they were doing the same thing, the catch up thing. But it seems like they I forget his name, Fujanara, the guy who runs DC Warner or whatever. He seems like he has a little bit of a plan to kind of reverse engineering their what Marvel did.
Yeah, like it's like existing already, and you're kind of peeling back the layers that were there, but we just weren't aware of, which I think is a smart way to do it, and like you said, kind of play both sides, where you're playing catch up at the same time. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're just kind of just reintroducing those characters. So.
Like with the Suicide Squad movie, that's really like a creative way to connect it with Batman. Is in that, but then he's in, Batman v Superman, and that's setting, which I know they're trying to set up the Aquaman thing. You just got to, you're right, Dan. You got to be careful that you're not harming your film by setting up all this stuff, which that's what worries me about Batman v Superman, because it should just be a Batman v Superman movie, not 18 other people in it. But if you have a plan, just make sure you plan out. Don't just do this whole, Fantastic Four. I don't know if you guys seen Fantastic Four, but holy crap, the way they shoehorned in their sequel bait, it was so 1995. It was very He-Man, Masters of the Universe, Frank Langella, I'll be back. It was very stupid.
No, you won't be. We're Amanda and I will both be talking about all of the Fantastic Four films next episode.
Does that include the Roger Corman one? Because that's the question.
May God have mercy on your soul.
All right. Anything else that you guys want to get off your chest action related before we close this one out?
No. I just, like I said, action adventure. Keep that in mind when you're yelling at my list for having so many built movies.
That's right. Nobody's going to be yelling at a list more than Amanda's A Good Day to Die Hard or my lack of action films altogether. I think the question that I want to ask for the listeners kind of to take a little bit different, but we touched on it a little bit when DJ brought up Dredd, and that was taking a older action film and redoing it. Obviously, reboots and remakes are not foreign to us these days, but thinking specifically of the action genre, is there a franchise or a singular action film from days gone by, from back in the 90s, 80s, 70s, whatever, that you would like to see done again or done better like they did with Dredd? So if there's one that you could pick out that hasn't been done in the last 15 to 20 years, what would it be that you would want to see kind of revisited in the action genre? So we'll let you answer that, and we'll kind of talk about that on our next episode. I'd like to thank DJ for being here. It's always fun to have you on, man. You're tons of great insight into usually movies that I haven't seen, but in this case I've seen most of them on the list. So,
I was pleased to be the drunken tag-in person. I was happy to be here.
Yeah, you needed that tag-in, so and we'll have to have you on again sometime so Amanda can actually record with you like she wanted.
Next time I'll be drunk and you'll be.
DJ, if people want to listen more to what you got to say, how are they
go to www.simplisticreviews.net. Our podcast is on YouTube, or we have a Facebook page at facebook.com/simplisticreviews. I'm on Twitter under trying to be DJV, and our show's Twitter account is Simple Tweeters, where we say a whole bunch of obscenities that I didn't say today because I'm being a good boy.
So definitely check out his show and follow him on Twitter, etc. Dan, we got a couple more episodes left as we wrap up Quentin Tarantino retrospective. We got Django Unchained and then the complete wrap-up, which is going to be a ton of fun. What else can people be looking forward to you as far as what's coming up for Talking in Circles?
Well, the next episode of Talking in Circles, we're actually going to be talking about sports, and that's where we're going to do a 2015 NFL preview episode. So a little bit of just why we like football, some predictions, and just some thoughts on fantasy this year. So you can look forward to that.
You should probably have Barry, Hyro, myself, and DJ all on that episode.
If you want to win in your fantasy league, you might want to have me on. I'm just putting it out there.
See, we can just dominate the conversation.
Put it out there. Just put it out
there. Someone has to talk about it.
Yeah, you should definitely. Yeah, somebody does.
That's it.
Actually, Chuck on our podcast is also a Dolphins fan, so you guys could wax pro.
That's right.
And Kelsey Grammer. Don't forget about Kelsey Grammer.
So definitely check out Talking in Circles as well as the upcoming Quentin Tarantino episodes, and then we'll be back with a new episode of Cinema Geeks next week. And until then, Dan, how can people follow you on Twitter?
I am at Movie Revolt.
And I am at Optimus Solo, and the show is at Cinema Geekcast, so you should follow all of us as well as DJ and the rest of the Simplistic Review crew. And tune in next week for another chance to listen to the Cinema Geeks. That was a short report for him. He's like, I'm representing the action.
I'll show you fucking action. Boom! It's like, man, he really took this shit. He's like a method actor.
I'm a method actor.
He's like Daniel Day-Lewis of podcasters over here.
Yeah. Doing some real life art, Shia LaBeouf style.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I was never famous, so.
You're doing it perfect.
Yeah.
Don't get naked in a movie by Lars von Trier, please. Just stay the way you are.
I have no problem with that. I'll just have a really bad British accent or whatever.
Oi! Hey, I'm naked. Over here.
Shyla? Is that you?
It's me, Shyla. No, I'm Australian. My accent's bleeding backwards and forwards.
I didn't realize I did that on the last episode. I recorded everything in stereo.
If you record it in stereo, you can still, because I used to record in stereo, but then when I convert it into mono, when I export it.
Right. My problem was I didn't realize I had done it in the first place.
I see.
So I didn't realize there was a need for anything. And then somebody was trying to, they regularly listen, but they must listen with just like one headphone in or something.
Yeah.
And he's like made a comment on the page. He's like, "Why is Dan only talking to himself?"
I've gone crazy.
Like it's a experiment
episode.
It's experimental here. See what you can fill in. You can be the other person.
It's like Mad Libs in audio form. It's kind of.
What would make Dan say that?
And like everybody else was like, I don't get it. I can hear everything. And then somebody was like, oh, well, one of them's coming out of the right ear, one of them's coming out of the left ear. I'm like, oh, my bad, guys.
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Okay. Is everybody alive? Nobody dead?
I don't know. He hasn't come back yet.
We're going to be here for like 2 hours. Dude, he's going to come back. I had to go to the hospital. She's puking her guts out.
We all good?
Okay. Is she fine?
Yep.
All right, you get the $20, Dan. I thought you would
change it.
We were taking bets when you were gone.
Nice.